Hello, everyone, and here we are again, and we are live. I know there's a big surprise. I keep saying it. We need to adjust that video. It is a hard stop, so we start. We'll adjust that to make sure that it fades out before we start the next summit. Michelle, grand rising to you as well. Good morning. Very much appreciate you tuning in again. Let me know if you caught all of our days yet, or maybe I'm not sure if I saw you on day one, because we are on day number four. We are on the very last day of the Cold Email Summit. Time flies when you're having fun. This week and this summit have definitely flown by for me. But I had a great experience, had a great time. And some said that potentially we have saved the very best for last. Now, I will obviously leave that up to you to decide, but I'm super, super excited for whoever is coming on stage with us today. We already have the first speaker backstage, and I will not keep her waiting much longer. I will introduce her in just 1 second, but before we do that, just a quick shout out to today's sponsor. They are Expandi.io. So if you have not heard of Expandi.io yet, which I very much doubt, then make sure you have a look at Expandi.io. And later today, in just an hour from now, we will actually have the founder of Expandi.io. He will join us and he will talk here on stage as well. Which brings me to the schedule of today. So as I mentioned, we already have the first speaker backstage, which is Alessandra. And she is the VP of marketing from none other than Mailshake. Now, I'm sure everyone who is here has heard of Mailshake has potentially even tried out Mailshake. I know I have. I've used them quite extensively over my almost 8 years now, in sales, automation, in sales. Well, in sales, let's keep it simple. And she'll be talking to us about, well, sending emails, which turns out is not as simple as one might think. So I'm personally very excited for that one. Then after that, we will be joined by Stefan Smulders, who is a fellow Dutchman just like myself. So that will be Extend Overload. He will join us in about an hour, and he will talk about multi-channel outreach. Where then after that, we are joined by David Jacob from LeadHawk. He will talk about sales productivity, or well, productivity, I should say, which is another one that I think will blow you away. So definitely worth sticking around for. And then last but most definitely in all of these, we'll have Amelia, and she is a top performing account executive at the Carabiner Group, who are a phenomenally interesting RevOps consultancy firm, another company that you should definitely have a look at. And that's our schedule for today. And it's the very last day. Then by the end of all the regular speeches that we have today, we will also have someone coming in to pitch to us who will show us, especially interesting for anyone who's operating in the agency space. But more on that later. For now, Michelle. Well, the replay for day one is on YouTube, and I believe also available on LinkedIn. Which brings me to my final point before I will let Alessandra take over from me. Is anyone who is now watching us on LinkedIn what we experienced throughout the week? But some people have told us that the experience on LinkedIn can be a bit laggy, can be a bit slow. So we're also live on YouTube. That's actually where most people are watching us. Yesterday, we had nearly 5,000 views on YouTube. So that's something that's very exciting. Today, we're hoping to break that record, of course. So if you're on LinkedIn and you find that your experience is not as smooth as you want it to be, then just head over to YouTube. You look for line.ai, and we're live right there right now as well. But I will drop that link here in the chat as well. So that's it. Alessandra, I can see you backstage. I know you can see me and just waving at you. Are you ready to go? That's amazing. Great, great. So I'll add you to the stream right now. And then let me see. So in 3, 2, 1, we have Alessandra here. How's it going, Alessandra?
It's good. I love that music in the intro. I was like in backstage jamming. I was like, this is good stuff, Hans.
Yeah. I saw you jamming along. Exactly. Yeah, you're not the first one to mention that. And yeah, I'm just going to take full credit for that. I chose the music.
Nice. And I love the neon look too. It was like a perfect kind of match.
Right. That's good. I'll send you the video, and then, or I'll send you the song name that you can add it to your
Nice.
Spotify working playlist. So how's it going? How have you been? Yeah, well, let's start with that. How's it going?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, busy, as you know, lots of stuff going in the sales space and cold outreach. So just really busy. You know, we do a lot of content, so that's kind of an always changing, landscape here in social media and everywhere.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And just a quick shout out to Manjot, who is also with us. He's joining us on YouTube and he's giving us, I think there's a thumbs up, isn't it? That emoji didn't really come through. But yeah, glad to have you joining us as well. So, as we're on the topic of sales, you are the VP of marketing of Mailshake. Is that correct? And then what does your day-to-day look like? And what is your main responsibility at Mailshake?
Yeah, so Mailshake's always been very central, you know, with content. And so, like I mentioned, what we do is a lot of content that we produce on the marketing side. So, you know, we try to create lots of things for SEO or for even like, you know, posts and things like that on our blog that are really helpful to salespeople. And it's, you know, whether it's a hot topic or it's something that's just to like help them improve, you know, their cold outreach, maybe multi-channel outreach. That's something we do a lot of. So that's kind of our day-to-day is a focus on creating that content for salespeople.
Sure. All right. Yeah, that's definitely exciting. And multi-channel outreach is a topic that we've pretty extensively covered here during the summit as well. So that's definitely as relevant as ever, I believe.
Mm.
And so what will you be sharing with us today? Because I mean, I know what you'll be sharing, but if you wouldn't mind just letting the audience know what they can expect, and then I think we're pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, sure. So even though I don't be focused on cold email, I'm calling it, you know, overall cold outreach that converts to revenue because really, you know, like you mentioned, multi-channel is important. There's a lot of other things that you might want to add in. I'll focus a little bit more on the email side of it and like how you get set up, how you prepare yourself for success and you know, just being ready to go for sending email. But also talk a little bit about, you know, some other things you can do to make sure that you're getting in front of your prospect as many ways as you can and that you're getting into their inbox, more importantly, that you're not, you know, not in the spam folder or things like that.
Yeah, and again, that is more relevant than ever now with the most recent Google updates. People are well landing in spam, so that makes a lot of sense. So what I'll do, I'll just the view a little bit. So because I see you already sharing your screen, so I will add
Mhm.
that to the stream as well, and then I'll leave you to it. So just a quick note for anyone, if you have any questions for Alessandra to come up, you can just post those whether you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. We can see those here in the well, I mean, it's not a studio, but let's call it a studio. And then like Alessandra, she can answer those during the talk or after, however you prefer that to take place, Alessandra. That's it.
Awesome.
And well, if you need anything from me, just let me know. I'll be backstage. I'll be enjoying the show from there. And yeah, if you're ready, then I think we are as well.
Yeah, ready to go.
Beautiful. So then I'll adjust this a little bit and then I'll be leaving.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to talk to you about this. And like I mentioned, I'm not just going to be talking about email, mostly email, but really the whole point is how do you do cold outreach that converts to revenue? You know, we want to make sure that we're doing cold outreach that's not just like blasting out there, not actually like working for us, but how do we do cold outreach that is working for us and that is like getting into people's inboxes? So I'll kind of talk through this. And, you know, first, a little bit about me. These are always fun where it's just like we go through random facts about us. But my name, as Hans mentioned, is Alessandra Colaci. I'm the VP of Marketing at Mailshake. I've been in marketing for about 15 years, which means I was like 5 years old when I started. No, just kidding. I was not. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. It changes all the time. I live in Austin, Texas, and I live like a little north of Austin, Texas, but pretty close. And I always say I love all things cheese related. I love queso. It's like a Texas institution to like have a deep love of queso and have 3 dogs. And, you know, just like a bonus fact about me is that I'm like an aspiring plant parent. So you might see in the background here, I have this little plant that I'm trying to keep alive. And, you know, I'm not very good at that, but I'm trying. So hopefully it survives. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. And, you know, I want to you know, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the replay, I want to make sure that we keep it very engaging and interactive. So if you have any questions at any point in time, just put it in the chat and whenever you're joining in from, I'm also going to ask a couple questions right now at the front end and make sure, even if you're watching on the replay, that you put, some answers in the comments there. But let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to skip it to this one. So the first question is, do you do cold outreach currently? So like I said, if you're watching live or on the replay, just add to the comments either A, B, or C. No, not yet. Yes, some, or yes, a lot. And I think that'll help us just get an idea of like kind of where you're at, and be able to tailor this to, to what you're doing. So so Hans is definitely C. Hans is a pro. He does a lot of cold outreach. So that's awesome. But yeah, and then, okay, Manjat says B. So B, he does some, which is great. Like, we'll talk about how you can maybe do more or get better results. But, this is really something that I think no matter where you're at, let's kind of talk through this. And this next one, you may or may not know because, maybe you just started doing cold outreach. But one of the most important things is your reply rate. Like, it's, kind of, are you getting into the inbox and then are you getting replies? So the next question is, what is your reply rate? And so A is 1 to 10%, B is 11 to 20%, C 21 to 30%, D 31% plus, which would be amazing, or E, not sure. And awesome. So Michelle says A, 1 to 10%. And, that's definitely wherever you're at. Like I said, you can always improve. So I think whether you're A, B, or even, C, there's a lot of ways that we can improve that. So this is one of the things we'll kind of talk through. How do you do all the steps before that to improve your reply rate? Manjot says A as well. So that's awesome, because I think, that's a really good place to start. And you can always keep improving it by some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today. So, the main thing to remember about cold outreach and cold email in general, or cold calling, whatever form of outreach you're doing, is that inboxes are crowded. Like, they are so crowded right now that you need to stand out. You need to be having the right kind of thing that you're saying. You need to get into inboxes. It's really important for you to stand out from the norm. And so we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that. So Michelle actually says she was that she hasn't started cold outreach yet. But which is great. Perfect. This is the place for you, Michelle, because we're going to talk how you can get set up the right way. Whether you've been doing it or not, there are steps that maybe you have to go back and do. So we're going to talk about how sometimes you have to go back and do some of the steps that maybe you skipped, even if you are already doing outreach. But inboxes are super crowded. It's one of those things where it's been the case in marketing and sales, but for years it's become more crowded of a space, more noise in a lot of these places, right? And so looking at something, I'm going to show you something I posted recently. So this is a little meme I created recently, and it said my inbox currently. And so I as a, executive was getting really frustrated with how my inbox was getting so crowded. And not only was I frustrated, I think it wasn't so much the volume. I was laughing to myself because these messages were what everything was. It was like, hope this email finds you well, that one in the middle, or, just following up, that other one, or we sell leads. And that was like, it felt like 90% of my inbox were those things, right? So I kind of had some tips that I added here to like stand out in the inbox. And we'll talk through some of that stuff, but this is what it feels like. Sometimes it feels like you're like slaying dragons. And I always joke that this is like, this is a hydra, actually. This is that kind of beast, that mythical beast, that when you cut off one head, it grows another, and it grows two more, right? And then it keeps on multiplying. So we want to do our best to fight against this as someone who's sending cold email. So one of the things, that you can do is this multi-step process, that we're going to chat through, where here are the steps to get in front of leads. And every part of this is very important. Every single part of this is really important, because, if you skip a part of it, then it doesn't really work as a system. And, you're going to get results that are not as good. And you want to just keep on improving those results as much as you can. So number one is get in the inbox. So that's deliverability. You want to get in the inbox. You don't want to be ending up in spam. You don't want to be, somewhere where they can't really see you. So you want to get into the inbox and focus on deliverability. And I'm going to go through this just as an overview. And then next, we're going to talk in detail about each section that kind of what you can do for each of these things. So the second thing is find the right audience. So that's personas and list building. Those two things are a really important part of the process. Number 3, craft the ideal message. So, that's copywriting, and super important. This is something that a lot of people do not like to do. I don't like to do copywriting. So we'll talk through, which is funny because I'm in marketing, but, there's some ways that you can improve that. And then number 4, go multi-channel. So we kind of hinted at it earlier, but multi-channel is very important. It's not just email. It's like, how can you go in multiple places, be in front of your prospects and get those leads through automation? And then how do you follow up effectively? Number 5. So finally, you want to make sure that it's just something you keep on being in front of them repeatedly. And that's also through automation usually, or a few other ways you can do it. So we'll talk through the first part, deliverability. This is always like the least sexy part of email, of cold email, where it's just like, yeah, sure, I know it exists, but we kind of don't want to deal with it much. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm going to tell you kind of the principles, but then, it's one of those things where I think you can have help in some of those. So the first part, and this is going to be a whole bunch of, there's going to be some jargon in this, so I warn you ahead of time, but so, very importantly, when you're starting out, and this could even be that you spin up a new email address to try different things. You can actually create multiple email addresses to try different things. But the best practice is to use a different domain than your website. So we see this happen a lot with people who are, especially entrepreneurs, or they're at a small sales team that's just starting out, or, they're doing some outreach for marketing. That they end up using the same domain name for their outreach email as they do for their main website. The reason you don't want to do that is you want to really just kind of focus on building the reputation of each sending domain that you're sending emails for. And this is a best practice even in general for like IT teams and things like that. They'll say, if you're sending email even from customer support, sometimes it can help to have a totally different domain for that email. So an example at the bottom there is if your main website is mysite.com, you may want to have your prospecting email be mysite.net. This is something that just like you can do at any point in time, even if you want to create another email and just say like, let's try it under a different domain. You can do that, at any point in time. And so this is what I was going to say is really this like, jargon soup. There's all these terms in email deliverability that are really not friendly. And they're things that I, even as a very technical person, I'm constantly like, what does that stand for again? Because it's not something you have to think about that often. But these are terms that are important for you just to know because they're things that need to be set up ahead of time for your email domain. So, there's DKIM, SPF, and DMARC. And I think it's, don't worry if you don't know what those are. Because there's ways to use a service. Like we have a service on Mailshake that you can see a screenshot of there, and that you can just click through and it'll help you set up those things. And if you don't use Mailshake, or if you use something else, you can use a freelancer to set these things up. And so I think don't be intimidated, because this is probably one of the most technical parts of sending emails that get into the inbox. But the main thing that you need to know about this is that if you don't do these steps, it's getting harder and harder to get into people's inboxes, because Gmail and some of those providers are getting very, very strict on making sure that it's a trustworthy domain, it's a trustworthy sender. And so if you skip this part, then it won't send those trust signals to those email providers. And what will happen is it'll start to say, okay, well, these things are not set up on that email domain. Let's actually like put it in the spam inbox. There's some things that happen after you start sending that also can affect that. But this essentially shows that you are a trustworthy sender. And so, like I said, either talk to someone that is very technical that can help you with it. Maybe someone who does email a lot or sets up websites. You can use Mailshake, or you can use a freelancer to set this up. But don't skip it. That's the key thing. Don't skip it. Make sure you do this, because a lot of times, then it's something that's a problem later. And so you'll be wasting effort if you don't do this part. And then also importantly, we'll talk a little bit later about how to like create a list and how to find a list of potential prospects and things like that. But for now, the thing I want to mention on deliverability side is to make sure you're cleaning your email list regularly. So this is something that's the case even with marketing, but especially with like sales and cold outreach. You want to make sure that you're keep cleaning your list. And again, this is a screenshot of what we have in Mailshake to clean your list. So you can kind of get an idea of that there's different types of things that come back as statuses for each email. So, as you see in that screenshot, uploading a list, and some of them are okay. So they seem solid and they're fine to keep sending to. Some are risky and some are bad. And one of the things that might happen is, for example, when you run your emails through a list cleaner, it might see that an email is risky or bad because, it's had a lot of bounces, for example. And so as that second bullet says, remove any emails that are risky or bad according to the list cleaning analysis. You do that so that you're not sending to something that's potentially going to also send signals, to the email provider and say, hey, this person is sending to someone who is getting a lot of bounces, or, bounces are basically when it doesn't hit the inbox, it bounces, or it goes to spam or things like that. But those are signals that are saying that this is an email address that maybe people aren't using anymore, or it's a bad email address. There's also something called honeypots where, even email services will set up certain emails that are supposed to kind of catch. That's why it's called honeypots. It's kind of supposed to catch spammers. And so, you don't want to be sending to things like honeypots or like outdated emails. There are sometimes emails that people aren't using anymore. When they move to job, sometimes they may leave their email address behind and not use it anymore. And sometimes spammers will be able to get access to those email inboxes and kind of take them over so that they can send spam. So what happens is these emails become risky, so they may become risky or bad. And so make sure that you're not sending to any of those. So clean your list regularly. The most important thing is clean it periodically. Like, you don't have to clean your list every day or even every month. I think just depending on how often you are getting more people added to your list, or how often you want to do it, you can do it quarterly at least, for example, because email addresses, even if they're not risky when you first, if you first, for example, did that list cleaning this month, it doesn't mean that it's not going to become a risky email address in the next month or two, because that person could have abandoned the email address in the meantime. That person could stop using it, or some spammer could start getting access to that email address. So it's a continual process that you want to do periodically, just to make sure you're not sending to that. And that makes sure that if you're only sending to good email addresses, that Google and all of them will see that you're a trustworthy sender of emails. And then the other part of this is to warm up your email. And I know I'm sounding like, hey, just use us, but you can use anyone for this. But we happen to have an email warm-up service that is called Warm Up Your Email. So it's great. It's actually in the name of our service that we have included in Mailshake. But whatever you end up using, the easiest way is to use an email warm-up service that kind of takes these actions to make sure that your email is like slowly ramping up into usage. So if I started my email today and I create a new email address, got all those things set up, all the lingo I said earlier for your DNS to set up your email address, and then just like today sent 10,000 emails out. What's going to happen is that it's too much too quickly. And so all these email providers are going to be like, whoa, this person's brand new. They've never sent emails before. Now we're getting all these emails that are, especially cold outreach. It's not an opt-in for a newsletter or anything like that. It's cold outreach. They're going to be like, this is really too fast. And that's going to be a signal that is showing that it's, not really trustworthy, and that it's something that that is like someone just trying to like batch something like right away as soon as they have their new email address. So, for example, in that second bullet, for example, our email service for warming up replies to your emails, marks them as important, removes them from spam. So there's a lot of like manual things that can happen with a warm up service that that ramp your email up and show that it's that you're a trustworthy sender. So that really is showing all these email providers that, oh, look, these things are being replied to, these things are being marked as important, these, they're being removed from spam, the signals that show that you're trustworthy. And then, after the initial warming period, you can send a full volume, which might depend on how many emails you want to send per day. So, obviously we have some people who are like, I want to send 1,000 emails a day. We have some people who are like, I want to send 20 emails a day. If you're sending 20 emails a day, then it's going to be a much faster process, and you can just kind of gauge based on the analytics and something on these warm-up services. But you can see, okay, now I can send at full volume after that warm-up period. And very, very importantly, don't rush the process. It's one of those things where I think, a lot of times these last couple of things I talked about are the things that people just kind of like breeze through and they try and do quickly. But, you ideally will have that email address for years and be sending it and getting good results and ending up in the inbox. So if you don't set up your email domain correctly and you don't warm up your email, you're going to just get really poor results on the back end of that. So that's not going to be in people's inboxes. It's not going to be seen by them. And so you're not going to get good replies like we talked about earlier. The reply rate is a function of being in as many inboxes as possible and then getting, the response to those emails that you get in. So let's talk through, just like how often you should do that. So the same way that I talked about that you should clean your list periodically, you should kind of keep an eye on your email reputation periodically, which, there's some things you can do within tools like ours, but there's also some external tools you can use. So periodically check your email reputation to make sure you still have a good reputation. It's not something that's like a one-time thing. So unfortunately, I would love it if we just were like, oh, our email is great, and we like warmed it up and all that kind of thing. And now it's doing very well forever, and we just never have to worry about it. But we have to kind of just make sure that we keep an eye on it. Let's say like someone did those first two things and they set up their email really well, but then they're sending really like spammy emails with like really, spammy words and things like that. That would, even though they did the first things well, the content of the email can actually, have an impact too on the reputation, or people are marking it as spam or things like that. You don't have to worry too much about it, because I'll talk through like how you can make sure that you don't have those issues. But you can use _.org, as I have here on this slide, to just kind of check what your reputation is. I've used it also even on the marketing side to see that our marketing emails are really having a good reputation. And you can also use it for your domain that you're sending emails. If you run into issues and you're like, oh, I'm having problems with deliverability, we kind of take a step back, send a fewer emails for a while just to rewarm it, or try a different email list, or like try some different content in your email. Or if you're absolutely not able to, after a certain point, improve your sender reputation and you want to just start over, you can do that too. You can create a new domain and, do all the steps I already outlined to do and create a new email domain. And then, so part 2, list building. List building is something that, also has to be done right to actually like get in front of the right people. And so, some of the things that are most important, and this is something, again, like I keep on saying people skip these things, but people skip so many of them, right? A lot of times we want to rush in and just be like, okay, I did all that stuff. I got all the complicated technical stuff out of the way. That I used a service or someone freelancer helped me. I want to start sending my emails now. And, we just like, don't think much about this part, because you're like, well, I'll figure this out, or I'll just send to like a generic kind of, list of people. If you don't identify your ideal persona and prospect in front of all this, then you're going to just be sending to people who it doesn't resonate with. So that starts with finding the right list and finding the right kind of people that you should be sending to that would be interested in what you're offering. So I think that's, you can kind of ask yourself some questions. So ask yourself, what pain point is my offer solving? So, I might, in our case, for example, we are something that helps people do cold email and multi-channel cold outreach. So we're solving the time that it takes to do that manually. It's a lot of time and work and effort to do that manually. It's a lot of things to keep track of. Using automation, we solve that pain point, and that saves them time, and it's very simple. Then what industries would be most interested in it? For us, for example, sales, marketing, and founders are our audience. They are, and you can do this by looking at your existing customers. So you can ask these questions and be like, well, let's look at our existing customers and see what the answers to these questions are based on our existing customers. If you're kind of a new company, you can just kind of look at other examples or competitors, or just kind of take a best guess. And then the third thing is, who are the decision makers who would be involved in purchasing? A lot of times, we don't really think deeply about who that person is, but it could be that there's one decision maker, two or three. Might be one main decision maker, but there's other people, who would be involved in the process. For example, a lot of times IT has to sign off on buying something that's like an enterprise level. And there's different kind of related people who definitely have to be involved in either the early conversations, but decide who that first person would be that would catch the interest, that would actually be like, yeah, I'm going to bring this into my company and start to pitch it and say that we should buy this thing. And then, like I mentioned, there might be multiple people involved in the purchase. So, what job titles would my offer appeal to? So it might be multiple job titles, but I think, there's one main person usually that it will appeal to. And then if you're not getting results, you can kind of expand that. But, it can be a main point of like, it might be CMOs, or it might be, SDRs or something like that, any kind of range of people. And then you could do multi-channel, multi-threaded to appeal to multiple people. And so the first thing you do is, once you figure out the persona and like exactly who, like, let's say you say, I'm gonna contact CMOs that sell software. Let's say that's your what you've identified, because that's my target audience. These are some ones that we suggest. So Lucia, ZoomInfo, the little guy with the monocle, that's a Voila Norbert, and Uplead and Seamless.ai. All of these are pretty good to get started. I'd say the only one that's a little more enterprise is ZoomInfo, because they have like a really large database, but it's one that's usually a yearly contract. Some of these others are more kind of pay as you go, or you can get started, with a smaller amount of investment. So just depending on where you're at, ZoomInfo is kind of one of the leaders in terms of just like the size of their database. But any of these work well for that. And so then don't forget what I mentioned earlier about cleaning each new list you get. Just because you did it once, you did it once for the list you bought, maybe you built a list before of those people, like I mentioned, like CMOs that are in software. Let's say you're like, okay, now I need a new list. I've run through and I'm not getting any, I've gotten as many results as I can. I've gotten some leads, I've gotten some revenue from that list. And then 3 months later, or however long later, you want to get another list. Make sure you clean that list that you get as you get a new one, because it's a brand new list. It's something that might have email addresses that you want to make sure are really clean before you start sending. And so the next part is it's like my favorite and my least favorite. I always say that the most ironic thing is that even as a marketer, like I don't like copywriting. It's one of those things where I'm just like, ugh, like I kind of avoid it, avoid doing it. And I think it's just because, there's so many paths you can take, but we'll chat through a bit how you can use kind of frameworks and things like that, to make sure that you don't have a million possibilities for copywriting. You have a limited set of things that you want to focus on. So first, write 3 to 4 variations of your emails. you want to do that because it's really an exercise. Like sometimes when I'm writing a headline to a blog post or an article, I will, for example, write 10, 20, I've heard some people even 100 headlines, because the more you write them, the more you're like, okay, now you kind of have to keep on digging and digging and like really deep down figuring out some more stuff to more ways to say it. So, even if you're just starting with one email and then moving to having like 3 in the sequence, first for that first email, write 3 to 4 variations and just kind of try different things, different formats, different ways to catch attention. And then make sure to write with your audience in mind. Mention how you can solve their pain points, lead with value, avoid overused words and trigger phrases. So, remembering when I posted that meme, and that meme, how I was saying that as a busy executive, my inbox had a whole bunch of just following up and, hope this email finds you well. And those are trigger phrases that, that just don't work. And I'm sure, I think Will already was on earlier, a couple of days ago, and he talks a lot about this. Like, these are the things that are the red flags in people's minds, that it doesn't add any value. It's just kind of something where I'm just like, yeah, this is what everyone says in my inbox. It almost makes it look a little bit like what everyone's doing. So it doesn't, it makes it a little less like, kind of interesting to people. So use different words, use words that are not being used by everyone else that is doing outreach. And so, yeah, so they're too obvious. Exactly. They're too obvious and when I see that in my inbox, I'm just like, okay, this, like, you can scan your inbox and it's just like, even just subconsciously, you realize those are the trigger words that you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested. This is like, it's taking up valuable space too. That you could be using for actually good content. And so we'll talk through that. And then, and so spam filters are part of evolution now. Exactly. So spam filters, are getting smarter. I think it's not just like the obvious ones, but even the words that it's like, okay, everyone's using it because it's like the trendy thing to say in a cold email. The way that you can actually test through some of this stuff so that you're not just taking a best guess. Like, I love testing everything. I a little too much. I think, it's one of those things where, especially if you take a best guess as your first thing, that's fine. But then if you can use data to inform you, to show you what is actually working and not working, that's like awesome. That's something that you're not just like saying, okay, my gut's telling me this. You're actually saying, no, that the people are responding best to this or that. So as I mentioned here, split test to a segment of your list. And so you may want to send 2 versions first of emails to a small segment of your list. So like, take a certain percentage of your list, just take those emails and then send 2 different versions so you can A/B split test. And what split testing means is basically that you're taking one version and another version, and you're sending it to a group of people. Let's say half of them are getting version A, half of them are getting version B. And why this is so powerful is, so let's say you send it, you do a full sequence, and then at the end of a week or 2, you say, oh, this email did very well. It had really good metrics. Then that tells you actually the data of what's doing well and which one's performing the best. And you can keep doing that repeatedly. So on that end, in terms of which metric, see which has the highest performance in opens, clicks, and replies. And so it's not just one of those things. You may have something that you're like, oh, this has a low open, but it has like really solid click-through rate. Or this has low clicks, but it has really good replies. So look at it holistically and say, well, really the most important thing is replies. You want to get those replies. Those are so important because it's showing that there's interest and that it's resonating. So look at it as a whole, but I think the leading indicator, you want to look at opens first, because opens are if you don't get them to open, you don't get them to do any of those other things. So let's say you're getting one that has really good replies, but some other one that's getting really good opens. Then what you can do is combine those 2. And you can say, oh, let me use the headline, the subject line from the one that's the A version, let's say, that's getting really good opens. and let's use the body copy of the one that's getting really good replies, which might be the B version. So you can, kind of combine them based on the metrics that you're seeing. And so in terms of what you focus on, there are elements that create engagement. So I was talking through like subject line and all that. The subject line sells the open. So very important. If you don't get the open, then they're not going to read it. Nothing matters. So the subject line sells the open. The opening line sells the next line. And the call to action sells the click or the reply. It could be either one. But this is like kind of the order of operation. So if you get someone to open, you get them to read that first line, which is very important. I'm sure Hans will say how important that is. Get them to read that first line. Then then that brings them through. It's like telling a story. Then they're like, oh, this is interesting. Let me keep reading. And then, okay, yeah, now they want me to take this action. Let's take this action. So, but yeah, super important. Hans is like, yep, very important. The opening line is something that keeps them reading. Otherwise, they're just, an open's not that helpful if they don't keep on reading through it, right? And then the call to action, which we'll chat a bit more in the next couple of slides. So finding the ideal subject line. The most important initial thing to initially split test, so again, like that version A and version B, is the subject line. So even if you want to keep both versions A and B the same in the body of the emails, but you want to test two different subject lines, so version A has one subject line and version B has a different subject line. The most important thing is to split test the subject line because it's the first thing that catches attention. So, people are looking at it and they're scanning their inbox. They're just trying to, look at what's important, what's not. They scan and they pick it out based on that first, and try really different formats. So with split testing, you could have one that's like really fun, and you could have version B that's really formal. See if the fun versus the formal subject line works better. Have one that has, a different angle or something like that than the other. But try ones that are very different because, if they're very similar and there's one word difference, it's probably not going to make a big difference to the response rate on that. But if they're really different and you say, oh, my audience likes this or my audience resonates with this. Also, very importantly, look at your own inbox. Look at your own inbox where you go through. And I do this sometimes where I'm like, what would stand out to me if I was looking at my own inbox? What is standing out to me? What is not standing out? What is just really blah or not interesting, like just following up or, those kind of things. Then I kind of take note of that. What's the subject line? What's the preview text? What are the things that I see that are standing out to me that I can mimic and maybe use as a similar format for my subject lines? Very importantly is the shortest subject line wins. Consider the mobile preview. So it's something that is everyone's on mobile now. So many people read emails on mobile. I do that all the time. And shorter is better because you don't want it to get cut off where the most important thing's not showing. But also for the subject, but also there's the mobile preview after the subject line. So think of those two things kind of together, that if you saw the subject line that's short enough and then the mobile preview that shows the very beginning of the body of the email, what combination of those two things would actually work really well. And then, kind of use that as your guide. And then, let's have fun with it. Test emojis. If you're testing different subject lines, you could try emojis and see how it works. Even if it's not a very fun audience, sometimes it's surprising. I think the thing with testing that always is interesting to me is that, yeah, sweet. We got the little guy, the cool guy emoji. But I think the thing that always is surprising me is sometimes there's things that I'm like, oh, this thing is going to do best when I'm testing. And then actually a different thing does best. And I'm like, I thought I knew my audience really well. And it's not like that, right? It's something where it's, hey, Mark, got hubby joining. That's awesome. Mark's also in sales. So, but yeah, so if you test emojis, it's something that you may not think is going to work for your audience. And then you're surprised by it. Or you could have the opposite where you're like, yeah, it's not working. Let me not use it in future tests that I do. Try personalization. Also another thing I'm sure Hans will say is important, and we all do, because it's a way you can stand out. You may even want to have a certain segment that's like your highest target accounts that you say, okay, I'm going to do personalization with them. And maybe you have, it's kind of some others that you don't. But I think that it's one of those things that you can test with. And then, it usually is something that can help increase your responses. And you create an open loop. So if you create an open loop, what that means is you're kind of leaving them hanging a little bit. We've all had I feel like Netflix is great at this. At the end of every Netflix movie, where at the end, you're like, what just happened? Or like, what is going, I feel like I don't have closure. And so you want to kind of create a little bit of that where it's like, oh, stay tuned for, my next email, I'll explain this, or, if you respond, I can blah, blah, blah. I can tell you how this and that other. Creating open loops is either they look forward to the next email or they respond to kind of get more information about something that seems like it'll help solve their pain. As we already mentioned, avoid spammy words like money, free, dollar signs, price, just in general, but also use those generic words that a lot of people use when they're doing sales. And next, the body of the email. So this is the next thing that we're going to talk through. Close the loop from the subject line. So like I mentioned, the subject line and the preview text, or the subject line and the first line, need to flow well, because people sometimes see both of those in the preview of their email. So kind of you can play off each other, like the subject line and the first line. You can also use different models of copywriting. So for example, there's attention, interest, desire, action, AIDA, which is a type of framework. You can Google that to look at some examples. PAS, which is problem, agitate, solution. And these are good ways for you to kind of build a flow of an email with those models of copywriting. Create a bridge from the before state to the after state. So you can, create that bridge where it's from, they're like, oh, I have this problem. And you paint that picture in their mind of my solution that I'm selling you, will, if you paint that picture and show them that will change them to this after state. The after state will be a better them, or they'll be, getting awards at work, or their boss will love them, or whatever that looks like. That is powerful because people are like, oh, I want that. I want this change. And so create that bridge to that after state that they're trying to achieve. And then I might breeze through a few of these. I know we're coming up on time, but so lead with value and a clear call to action. You want to make sure that you really are giving value. Try and get interest and a reply from the first email versus a meeting booked. So you want to get them to respond. A lot of times it's like, I can't tell you how many times. My inbox is full of, hey, I'm selling this thing. Do you have 10 minutes to hop on a call tomorrow? And I'm just like, no, I don't. But there are those times that I get hooked because it's an interesting thing. I respond to someone and say, yeah, I might be interested in this, because they didn't really ask for a meeting book, but they caught my interest. And then I end up on a demo. I end up buying the thing that they're selling, like software or whatever that might be, because they caught my interest and I got in a conversation with them. And then I got, booked a meeting with them or a demo. Make it clear what the next step is that they should take. So maybe they should reply. Maybe that's all you want, is them to reply. And like I said, maybe it's the open loop or something like that. But just make it very clear. One next step, one call to action. That's it. Not 10, not 3 different things you want them to do. And remember, you won't likely sell in one email only. It's just, facts of life. Unfortunately, usually it's not like, oh, I got your first email, sign me up, And so go multi-channel. You need to be everywhere your prospects are, build value across email, social, and phone. You can warm a lead by connecting on LinkedIn and posting valuable content, and follow this by a multi-day sequence across email, LinkedIn, and phone. And so here's an example. You might send a first message on social media that is a connection request. And it's maybe you include, something in that, or you connect with them first. And then after that, you send some valuable content. Again, don't pitch slap where you're just like, hey, I'm so-and-so and I have to sell this and, get on a meeting. Don't do that in the first email or first social content. And none of the first things should be that. Just kind of start to build a relationship. And then step 2 could be either an email. So this could be an email that's just an email, or it could be an email, that you have a video, if you've already connected on LinkedIn, they're a little warmer. And so you can use a video message on LinkedIn, or you could do it in an email, or you could do just a plain email if you haven't, connected with them and they haven't responded to your connection request. And then this is something that some people that we learn a lot from, like Thibaut Sorias, he talks, he does this a lot, a LinkedIn voice note, where it's like, hey, this is really personal. It's very something that not a lot of people do too. So it stands out. So you may want to send a voice note, or you can do a phone call. So as a marketer, phone calls are like the most terrifying thing in the world to me, but it's really effective, because I think if you do a phone call, when you're selling, it's another touch point. Even if they just hear that voicemail, it's another touch point. So you're getting in front of them again. LinkedIn text, so you can follow up with some kind of message. And then here's an example in Mailshake of what that might look like. So there's some ways, and then follow up. I'm going to breeze through this because we're coming up on time, but don't say following up. Don't act like they owe it to you to read it. Treat each follow-up email as a standalone piece. So think of it as if they didn't read any of the previous email. Don't act like, hey, I'm referencing my other email. Treat each one as its own piece. Automate based on action. So you can trigger a certain email if they open but don't reply. You can add them to your CRM if they reply. Don't automate the response if they do reply. Make it custom and personal. So if they do reply, make sure you handle that personally. And you can, then send your leads. Let's say they do reply, then send those leads to your CRM through Mailshake. You can do that through any of these connections, and then also, Zapier. But we have a lot of native integrations too. So don't give up. It takes multiple points of content to get through. Even if someone shows interest but ghosts you, continue to follow up. They might just be busy. It drives me nuts when people are like, I wrote you a week ago and you didn't respond. I'm like, yeah, I'm busy. Like, maybe I had interest, but I'm busy. Realize the more senior their title is, the more crowded their inbox is, and try multi-threaded outreach. If you don't get in touch with one person on the team, maybe try someone else on the team or cross-functional teams as well. So yeah, that's it. And I know it's a lot of content. So if there's any questions, would love to hear if there's any questions from anyone.
Oh, right. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of content, but some really great content as well, most definitely. So I very much enjoyed that. And I know we have. Well, I'm not sure if your husband is has been sticking around, but it's pretty cool. He showed up. So hey,
Yeah.
Mark actually connected
Thanks
with
for the
him on
support,
LinkedIn as well.
hubby.
Yeah, loving the support. So yeah, that's good. I think that's the first for the summit as well, but that's maybe the other ones just decide to stay quiet. But yeah, I mean that was phenomenal content, and I mean I didn't expect anything less coming from the people at Mailshake. So that was something that I mean I've been looking forward to it and haven't been disappointed. So that's great. And yeah, so what we usually do, so we have the Q&A right now. Now people they're tuning in from YouTube, from LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and there's a bit of a delay. So I always give people some time to ask their questions, especially on LinkedIn. There's a bit of a delay, so some questions might come in later. But imagine someone is either watching the replay or maybe the delay was that long that we've already said goodbye to you. So how do they get in touch with you? How do they follow up with you? What is the best way to stay connected with you?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn and also on Twitter, but I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. My name's pretty unusual, so if you look for my name, Alessandra Kalachi, on there, you'll find me. And then on mailshake.com, we love to just equip people, and even if they don't use us, to do cold email and cold outreach the right way. So definitely check us out. But I would love to connect with anyone if you either on LinkedIn or Twitter. Definitely say hello.
Yeah, and if memory serves me well, you have the Mailshake Academy. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have a couple like really helpful things to get started or to really like renew your knowledge. So we have an academy, and then we also have the cold email masterclass, which is you can just find on our website. It's on the footer of our website. But both of those are really good ways for you just to have a quick start of learning as much as you can about cold email.
Exactly. Beautiful. All right. I appreciate that. So it seems that we either have no questions or people need to refresh their LinkedIn. So for anyone who's watching on LinkedIn and you feel like you're lagging behind a little bit, try refreshing your stream or move over to YouTube because that's where most people are watching us. Alessandro, thanks a lot. I'll most definitely reach out to you again after we are done for today for the Cold Email Summit. Well, when we are done for maybe even the year potentially with the Cold Email Summit. I appreciate your time. I very much enjoyed your take on what makes a successful cold email or cold outreach campaign. And thanks. Have a good one, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye. And then here we are. For now, it's just us, but the next speaker is already backstage. And the great news is that it is a fellow Dutchman like myself. And some of you, I think a lot of you already know him, especially if you have been active on LinkedIn. If you've been active in the LinkedIn growth hacking space, because he is the #1 LinkedIn growth hacker. And he founded Expandi.io. Now I'm going to bring him on stage in just a second. But before we do that, I just want to give another quick shout out to Expandi.io, who are sponsoring today. So this whole day is sponsored by Expandi.io. And if you want to get started with LinkedIn outreach, but if you also want to get into multi-channel outreach, then Expandi.io are probably one of your best options out there. So very much encourage you to check them out. And I'm confident that Stefan will have a great offer for you as well when we bring him on in just a minute, that you can take advantage of. So I would love to hear about that as well. Now, Stefan, I can see you backstage. You can see me. So you can just wave to the camera if you're good to go, or give me a thumbs up. There he is. He's waving. So you are on in just 1 second. And here we are. You are live.
Thanks, Hans. And finally, after 4 days, I watched a lot of sessions already, and I'm actually pumped and excited to finally be here as almost the last one, right?
Almost the last one. Yeah, well, it is a cliche. Last but not least, what they say, right?
That's definitely true. At least they say it in the Netherlands like that way. So yeah, happy to be here. And,
exactly. And loving the studio. You didn't set that up especially for the occasion, did you? Or
yeah, I do actually a lot of online sessions, and I try to do that as professional as possible. Due to some failures I made in the past, where the voice and all these things were not pretty clear. So I hope this time it will be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. We've all been there. I've been recording like hour-long sessions, and then it didn't record the audio, stuff like that. So that was a horrible experience. So I'll give a little bit of introduction on you. What some people call the baseball card. So you are the founder of Expandi. You are the #1 LinkedIn growth hacker. You bootstrapped Expandi to 6.5 million in annual recurring revenue in 2 years. And you are ranked 54th out of the world's 474 fastest growing bootstrapped SaaS companies, which I think, that's phenomenal. And then the best part is that today you're about to share with us for free, pretty much how you did that, how you do it, and how we can do it ourselves. Is that right?
Yeah, I saw so much great sessions already with a lot of micro in-depth tips and tricks on a lot of different areas. So I changed my approach a bit to thought, okay, I'm almost the last one. So how can I be still of value? And instead of diving too depth in the tool and explain a lot of things, I came up with something interesting. And I want, after a kindly introduction about myself for the ones who do not know me yet, I want to deep dive today in LinkedIn events.
LinkedIn events, that is super relevant, because we're on a LinkedIn event as well. So that's great because anyone who has not checked out Expandi.io yet, which I very much encourage everyone to do, there are a bunch of really cool growth hacks on there where you can, based on what people are doing or the events that they're going to, groups that they're in, you can set up certain growth hacks. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And we growth hacked our way to almost 7 million in annual revenue, mainly using our own tool and a lot of great content distribution. And one of the things we did ourselves was actually relying a lot on hosting LinkedIn events. And it's a very easy thing to do. but it's a very hard one to get a lot of attendees towards your online event. And what I want to do is to untap some really cool tricks on how you can increase the amount of registrants and attendees. And of course, all these things can be executed on autopilot by using our Expandi tool. But first of all, see if I can share my screen.
Sure. And then for our next event, we'll most definitely do that. It's kind of silly that we didn't do for this event. So that's great. And yeah, so for just a quick note, while Stefan is getting set up with his screen, etc. For everyone who's watching this on LinkedIn, and I know I keep repeating myself, but turns out the LinkedIn stream is sometimes lagging a bit behind, or it's pausing. Maybe the viewer experience isn't that good. So definitely also head over to YouTube, where we are live as well. And then on YouTube, you just look for Line.ai, but I will also drop the link now in the LinkedIn comments as well. And then you can switch over to YouTube and you can watch us there. We're also live on Twitter, and we're also live in our Facebook group with Line Power users. So a quick shout out there. And that's it, Stefan. I can see your screen already behind the scenes.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready to go, let me know, and then I'll leave.
Yeah, definitely. And before I start, Hans, I want to do a really huge shout out to you and the Line team because of the great things you brought together here these past couple of days. Some really interesting speakers, some great tips, values, and tons more things. So keep doing this. And I think it's really great value for everybody who want to improve their outreach game on different areas and different channels. So well done. My compliments for everything you brought up so far.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I said it before, I'll probably will be taking a week of holidays just to rewatch everything and make notes and actually study the stuff that went on here. And I encourage everyone to do the same. So thanks. I'll move back to backstage. If you need anything, just let me know. And then just a quick note for anyone who might have questions for Stefan, you can put them in the comments wherever you're watching, whether that is YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We will see them here, and then Stefan will either get to those by the end of his talk, or we will get to those during his talk. Stefan, the stage is yours. Let me just add that to the stream. And
sounds like music in my ears, Hans. Thank you for that. I hope, first of all, everybody can hear me loud and clear. If that's not the case, just leave a comment in the chat, and Hans, he will notify me because I shared my screen on full mode. For the ones who do not know me, my name is Stefan. I'm located in the Netherlands, similar as my common friend Hans, our common friend Hans from Line. And I'm actually a former agency owner. I was mainly focused on done-for-you service on LinkedIn. And in the past couple of years, I helped actually hundreds of C-level decision makers to improve their LinkedIn outreach game by managing their profiles. And in the early days, I did that actually manually with 2 left hands and 1 Excel sheet. And at a certain time point, you can all imagine that I was running totally out of time. So I thought, let's be clever and try to search for some tools which can automate some repetitive tasks on LinkedIn. And I found tons and a bunch of tools. From Duckshop to Linked Helper to Meet Leonard, Alfred, Phantom Buster, LeadIn, and so on and so forth. And I think all these tools are very interesting and mainly designed for single users, especially to the fact that you always have to download the Chrome extension. And if you only need to automate 1 repetitive task or 1 action, then it makes a full sense. But as soon as you want to manage multiple accounts seamless in 1 dashboard, then it's very hard actually to use such kind of a tool for these purposes. You can, for example, not sync the LinkedIn inbox. You are limited in importing Sales Navigator searches. You can do a clever growth hacks to stand out of the crowd. You can't measure properly, and now I'm talking about 3-4 years ago. So actually from frustration, I could not move forward, but using these kind of tools, and I shared all these things with my technical co-founder Glenn, and in 2019 we founded Expandi. Expandi is the world's safest tool for LinkedIn automation, and that's how we started. We bootstrapped our array with using our own tool towards the 7 million annual recurring revenue, and that all within 2 years and no funding. As Hans already mentioned, we ranked 54 out of the world's 474 fastest growing bootstrap companies by Latka magazine in February's edition. So for us and the team, it's a really nice achievement, and it motivates us even more to grow faster than we did before. As you can imagine, I'm just a simple founder, and due to all the marketing background I have, I did a lot of growth marketing tactics to came where we are right now. Now we try to scale the organization, so my role will also change a bit from operating in the organization, working towards a position where I try to be more on the strategical part. But what I actually the most like to do is helping people moving forward and helping them with providing tips and tricks, playbooks, and especially growth hacks to improve your LinkedIn outreach game. I put all these interesting hacks, tactics, tricks, playbooks together on our blog site. On the homepage from Expandi, you can find also the blog section. And it became a bit of more the CNN for LinkedIn lead generation, with more than 65K unique monthly readers of our blog content. And the content on our blog is mainly focused on practical tips, values, templates, examples, how you can connect the dots using multiple tools, how you can actually grow, hack your way towards better results on LinkedIn and also email. My passion is mainly on LinkedIn. That's how we started. But I think for the ones who want to know a bit more about me, I stop talking too much for now. You can also find on YouTube a lot of podcasts and interview sessions back if you're interested. And for the ones who are thinking I'm only making growth hacks, I'm only doing podcast interviews and managing a fast growing SaaS company, I also try to spend as much valuable time with my best buddy Steve. He's my 5-year-old son, and I go with him in the weekends to football. I try to enjoy a little with him and do cool, nice things with. I should recommend to all of you to spend a lot of valuable time with your family, because you only have one, and it's something you can buy. That's a time. All jokes aside, I think that for the ones who are active on LinkedIn, we all faced a challenge somewhere similar time last year. And I think we all noticed that a couple of things changed from that time point on LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn has a couple of problems, and one of their main problems is actually spam. I think it's already mentioned before a couple of times that we have to personalize, that we have to do a couple of things, that we have to stop with spray and pray approaches, and that we have to do a better job on LinkedIn. But actually, maybe because of the fact that too less people did that, LinkedIn made a couple of changes. They actually, instead of bringing or cracking a lot of third-party apps down, or people who were too active on LinkedIn, they decided to go double down on decrease the amount of actions people can do on the platform. And it means that a lot of us were used to do outreach on a certain way for many, many years on LinkedIn, where we were mainly focused on sending hundreds and hundreds of actions each and every day. And LinkedIn luckily reduced that to, let's say, a 100 per week on average. And that means that if you are used to do outreach for a very long time on a certain way, that it has a very huge impact for a lot of people. But it's not the end of LinkedIn. It's not the end of automations. It's actually not the end of the world. It's actually a very good thing, because from that point on, people needed to do a step back and actually change behavior. Now, a lot of people from everywhere around the globe, they all ask me, Stefan, what's going on? LinkedIn is cracking down. My agency, I can't support and serve my customers anymore. do you have workarounds? Can we bypass LinkedIn limits? Please tell me some great tips and advice so that we still can blast out a lot of messages. And actually, that's, in my opinion, a bad thing. And of course, tools like Expandi and much more tools, they can provide workarounds. They can bypass limits with CSV uploads, with open InMails, and a lot of other nice things such as group messages. But at the end, it's a signal from LinkedIn that, okay, if we want to stay on the platform, we have to do a step back. We have to overthink and do a much more better job. And instead of working and thinking for workarounds, we actually have to ask ourselves, okay, if LinkedIn is making this decision, then we have to come up with a better approach. And instead of asking me, how can I bypass these limits? It's, I think, a more interesting question that, how can I become actually a more healthy LinkedIn user instead of asking how you can send more requests? A thing I discovered is that more than 90% of LinkedIn's users have a lower SSI score than 70. And in a second, I will tell all of you a bit more about the SSI score. Yeah, we are all stick with a limit to 100 requests per week, which is definitely not a bad thing, but it challenged all of us a bit more to come out of the comfort zones, to try to explore new strategies, new ways to stay on LinkedIn, and especially to be successful. I think a lot of speakers before, they explained really valuable tips on a micro level on how you can personalize, how you can improve your messaging, what you can do to end up mails in the inbox instead of the spam. So I will not deep dive today in that part, but I will definitely help you with providing one of the best strategies at the moment to still be very successful on LinkedIn. And I think for the ones who are a bit familiar with the SSI score, for the ones with the SalesNet subscription, it's actually very easy to do a lookup on what your actual score is. And it contains, just as a simple explanation, 4 pillars. And the ones who are doing a lot of outreach on LinkedIn, they have a very strong position in the 4th pillar, building relationships. And it's a bit of underestimated, and a lot of people spend too less attention on the other 3 pillars. And one of them, of course, is what's actually the best way to work on establishing your professional brand. How you can become a tough leader by publishing meaningful posts, for example. How you can build an inbound strategy and engage with people who visited, for example, your profile, because that are the ones who are already interested in your approach. How you can find the right people. LinkedIn will limit you in the amount of connections you can do. So you have to make sure that you find people who are already interested in your approach and which are already a bit warmed up, because LinkedIn wants you to only invite people you know. How you can engage with insights instead of sending a straight in connection request. It makes much more sense to engage with these people. How you can, for example, like their posts or the latest content and visit their profiles or follow their company pages instead of just out of the blue as a cold outreach, making connection requests and actually doing a mass outreach. And what we did is, if I go to the next sheet, because I'm only talking now about outreach and especially LinkedIn, but what we actually do with Expandi is that in the beginning, of course, we are mainly focused on doing outreach on LinkedIn with a very creative and tactical strategies to stand out of the crowd and to do things different. And of course, we have great features in place where you can scrape posts, where you can scrape polls, where you can scrape events. And you can send personalized GIF animations through email and LinkedIn messaging. But at the end, it all depends on a reliable tool where you don't have to go back and forth and where you actually can automate your full omni or multi-channel process within one dashboard. So we've created, since all these changes in LinkedIn, we did a step back as a company, and we thought, okay, what can we implement to be a bit more meaningful? And what can we implement to help people moving forward and increase actually their results on LinkedIn, the way LinkedIn wants you to behave? So actually all the features, the new features we designed in our V2 version, they should help you increase your SSI score. Because they are related on the 4 pillars I showed in the previous sheet. So we combine the 2 most effective outreach channels, and of course that's LinkedIn, and of course that's email outreach. A lot of people, as I just mentioned, talked about personalization, and what we did is that we also think that the creative touch will minimize the ask, it will interrupt the patterns, using image and GIF animations in your messaging. So that's one of the features we definitely have in place in Expandi, and it increase the results at least with 30-40% in comparing to not using it, especially on the LinkedIn side. But if you want to be more in touch with your customers, if you want, with prospects, if you want to create scenarios based on your lead's behavior, for example, smart sequences, and if you want to create if-else scenarios and want to use a software who can think for you instead of going back and forth with different tools, then Expandi is definitely the place to be. For example, let's say we're gonna promote my or Hans profile. We're going to attract a lot of people to us Hans profile. And I think it's a very interesting approach to, for example, follow all the people who are visiting Hans profile. And all the people who are visiting Hans profile, we can use these ones as an input. And from that input, we can say, let's visit these profiles back. And as a next step, okay, if they visit back again, then let's follow their latest pieces of content. And of course, this all can be done on autopilot. And if we follow their latest content, we can do a lookup if they have an open profile. And if they have an open profile, if the answer is yes, then we can send an open InMail without using any credits. And of course, we can add the cool personalization in it with, for example, a line or, for example, personalized GIF animation. And if they have not an open profile, then we can do a lookup for the email. And from there on, we can send an email. And if it's not opened, or there's no reply coming in, then in the latest scenario, we can send, for example, a connection request, because as I mentioned before, and we all face, we have a less connection requests left. So, and that's what I mean with based on scenarios and the lead's behavior, the software will change and adopt on the fly towards another funnel which you prepared before. Of course, Expandi integrates with a lot of tools and can create a seamless workflow. The important question is, how can I become a healthy LinkedIn user? And that's what we try to learn you. Besides that, we provide a world-class software on how you can improve your LinkedIn game. We are the industry leader in world-class growth marketing materials, and as Hans also mentioned, it's especially based on very, very practical use cases, examples, playbooks, handbooks, so that you can apply it yourself and move forward straight away. At the end, we want to make you a better user, a more healthy, and help you to achieve great results on LinkedIn. And screaming on our website that we will 10x your revenue, I think at the end it makes not that much sense. It will help you much more to dive in the gap and help you solving the challenge on how to do that. Because the software is just a tool, and it's just an instrument in the whole process, no matter how you use it. But at the end, it depends on the full you put in. And we are very strong in that part, and I think we definitely make the difference in comparing to other interesting tools, and that we are really practical based. So we have more than 12,500 active users in the system. We are backed by some trusted leaders in the industry. I think we all know these people, from Eamon Ross to Houston Golden. I think one of the world's #1 LinkedIn influencers, but also Rowan Chowbey. He's India's most followed growth hacker, and they're all supporting Expandi. So we are growing. And for all the people who want to do a better job on LinkedIn and searching and thinking, actually, okay, what is an interesting way to move forward? No matter if I want to follow up per email or per LinkedIn messaging or through an open InMail, and we're all searching for ways to break through the noise with outreach. At the end, we all did our best and hard work of building a network, a brand on LinkedIn. We spent a lot of time on it to build an audience, to gather a lot of followers. But how do we get advantage of all these people who are following us? If I ask, for example, people, how many times do you engage with people in your first degree network? I think we all have to be honest, and it's actually too less because we forget it, we don't spend time on it, but these people are already trust you. So you spend a lot of time, effort to promote yourself, to gather a lot of followers, to attract a lot of people who want to follow you. And then actually LinkedIn is also a perfect place to get the word out about your next meeting, your workshop, or for example, an online webinar. So for the ones in here, I'm very keen to hear if some of you already consider to running an event on LinkedIn. And that is actually the question I asked myself more than a year ago as well. But again, due to all these LinkedIn changes, I want to tell a bit more about why LinkedIn events should be so interesting. First of all, I think trade shows, it's a bit of a networking, how people usually do it. But since the COVID kicked in, everything transforms to Zoom, to online calls, and a lot of things are happening online, also major events. So if you want to attract a lot of business leads, you can use LinkedIn events to be more in the picture and in the eye of your own LinkedIn followers. The advantage of it is that people get to see directly your expertise in the space that you work in. They build an emotional bond as they see you speaking live and get to know your personality. They see, for example, the hype of your product, as there will be lots of other people attending the event as well. And if you already used to do a product demo from your sales position, or just as a founder to promote or investigate or gather feedback from people who are in the future most likely want to use your tool, then I think this is a great opportunity to deep dive in. That's what I did 1 year ago. And if you are able to serve people with a demo for one person, then how amazing could it be if you can do in exactly the same time a demo for 100 people, calling it a LinkedIn event or a webinar, and so on. It will save you time. It helps to build your brand authority. You will have the opportunity to show your audience that you can build an emotional bond and your expertise about everything. So due to these main reasons, I deep dived in LinkedIn events. And it's always with new things, learning by doing. And I can imagine that people say now, okay, yeah, it's indeed very easy to host a LinkedIn event. You can create it. They simplified it that much that you can create on LinkedIn site an event. Yeah, actually within a couple of minutes. But creating a LinkedIn event is not that hard. But actually, what's the best ways to gather a lot of people? And everything what we do in life come due with learnings. So we faced a couple of challenges ourselves as well. The first time we did it, and indeed it was very easy to pop up in LinkedIn event, and it was actually a bit of fun, but most likely what I did in the beginning. The first webinar we organized, for example, it got 11 or 12 attendees, a lot of colleagues, one for my co-founder. We created a LinkedIn event, we shared one post, we invited all our colleagues, we were waiting until other people signed up, and we failed because, of course, as you can imagine, nobody did that. But it's actually what a lot of people do, not only with hosting events, but also with creating content. We are passively waiting for other people who are coming towards something they can't find. This happens even just 6 months ago. And since then, we've tested tons and tons of different promotions and strategies to get more and more people on our online event. Some of them are bad, some are good, but we found it actually kind of a formula for the perfect LinkedIn event promotion. And with a perfect formula, I mean that it should be able to gather more than 1,000 people to register for each and every event you organize. We did that a couple of times very successful since we found out what worked and what doesn't work. As a gift, I want to give all of you after this session, and I will shoot them out per email, an ebook with all these untapped strategies. If you watch until the end, I will tell a bit more about that. The session is unfortunately not long enough to deep dive in all these strategies, but I found some really cool untapped promotions to get at least 1,000 people towards your next event on LinkedIn. And before I start with that, I think an interesting thing for all the people who are also very active on the email outreach is to know that if you host a LinkedIn event from your company page, it will automatically save and gather for you all the email addresses from all the people who are signing up as a registrant. So that's maybe an interesting thing to know. So no matter how you want to follow up, if you host it from a company page, it will gather all the email addresses and you can use them the way you want through the object. So after that, let's start with some really interesting things. Because I think it's a very common thing that if you host a LinkedIn event, that the first thing you do is you want to post on your and the speaker's timelines. But it's not always easy. What should you post? What kind of a content you should use? Should that be polls? Should that be video? Should that be a normal post? We've tested out all of them with different speaker profiles from our team members. So actually we used a mix of LinkedIn videos and polls to constantly remind our target audience of the event and stay on top of their mind, and to understand for ourselves, which type of content could bring the most results in terms of reach and engagement. And of course, it all depends on how influenced is the LinkedIn profile you use, how many followers it has, when you post, how late, and so on and so forth. So we tested with a couple of profiles with a bit more followers and a couple of profiles with less engagement. And actually we divided 3 different types of a post. And on the left side here, you see our colleague Ivan doing a post with a short introduction video. And in that video, he just greets his followers. He briefly gives an overview of what the webinar will be about. It's just somewhere around 20 seconds. And with some interesting note above to get some awareness from people who are seeing this come by on the timeline. So this is a type of a post we tried on different profiles with different speakers on a consistent base in the beginning of start promoting this event. And as a second one, what we also did is that we took advantage of the opportunity to create a polls, LinkedIn polls. As you see on the right side, are a great way to engage your followers. They can vote on. It's always easier, actually, to give a comment than writing. Also, you can later scrape your LinkedIn polls based on the answers and reach out to people who voted on specific answers. So, and as you see here on the right side, this post of our colleague Sharon got more than 90,000 views and more than 135 unique votes. And in a bit, I will also tell how you can scrape these people and how you can outreach these people. But the starting point is create a content, create a really cool poll question, try to engage as much as possible. And from there on, scrape all the people who are voting on your poll. And last but not least, approach these people. What we also did is making kind of an announcement content. We tried, as you see on the left side, on the profile from our colleague Demi, a free webinar, what you will learn, what you will get, and try to get a lot of awareness and traction from such kind of a post. And I have to be honest, the best way to go viral is to consistently create incredible content that attracts a large, loyal, relevant, and engagement audience who will comment on your posts. It's also a fact that it's very hard to do this on a consistent way. So working with a kind of a content calendar and maybe a tool who can help you create content will be beneficial to keep doing a better job than the day before. However, what if you, for example, got a great content, but if you're still working on building your LinkedIn audience and your posts just don't seem to get traction because not everybody has 10,000 followers, not everybody knows really well what to write and how to engage these pieces of content. There's also a small tactic that if you're not familiar with it, you can use actually LinkedIn engagement posts. And the concept is simple. You participate in a group of people who agree to like and comment on each other's LinkedIn post. It will get a lot of more traction, especially in the beginning of the post. And then real people will also see that this is something interesting, and they can, for example, vote on a poll. There are multiple LinkedIn engagement pods. We did a couple of tests with the Lampot, with the Link Boost, for example, and they brought us actually a really nice result. The process is simple. You just install the engagement pod of choice. You join engagement pods related to your needs. You have a lot of different industries in there where you can participate. You share your content, you customize the audience, and you get actually instant reactions. But now you're all thinking, okay, if I write a really interesting post, then of course a lot of people which have nothing to do, which are not interested, will comment and like it. Yeah, that's true. But what we saw is that using the engagement pods only for LinkedIn polls works the best. Why is that? Because tons of reach with likes and comments due to the pod members, but actually only the real people will vote with a poll answer. So you get a lot of traction, and here you see some examples which we achieved with hundreds of thousands of views in this case. And only real people will vote on the poll answers. And we have a really cool feature in Expandi where you can easily scrape all the people who vote on the polls based on the answer they gave. So that's a great starting point. And in combination with polls and an engagement pod, that was the most successful thing we did ourselves. In the ebook, we go a bit more in depth with all the templates, with all the examples, and with everything we use so that you can just copy and apply it yourself and adjust from there on. And to deep dive a bit more in the poll search, it's one of my favorite strategies. So we saw a lot of people who are voting on the polls, and an example from Sharon. The next step is, okay, how can we scrape these people? It's actually, you just make and you go to the three dots, you just copy the post link, you pass it in Expandi, and within a couple of minutes it will import and gather all the 135 people who voted. You can segment them based on their answers, and it's actually a very easy thing to do. We still achieve on average a 78% acceptance rate doing this. The next step, if you gather all these people in, for example, a tool like Expandi or other one you really love, is to follow up with these people who voted on your polls. And to achieve a 78% acceptance rate, I have here just some random examples. And as you see, these examples are based on LinkedIn messages, but for all the cold email fans here, you can actually do exactly the same per email. You can gather the people through a scraper like Expandi. You can use their email addresses instead of LinkedIn messages to approach them and follow up per email as well. But it's actually a very simple, thanks for voting on my poll, with some personalization in it. I'd love to connect, to share with you my secrets. And after they accept, personalized GIF animation, in this case from our colleague Ivan, where he's bottle up a bottle of champagne. Oh, 1 second. I was a bit too enthusiastic. Yeah, I'm back here, sorry. And such kind of an animation after sending the connection request in this case, but you also can use it in email, you also can use it in an open InMail, you also can use it in group message where it's not needed to be connected with people. It interrupts the patterns, it minimizes the ask, and it's a much more warmer first touch for people, and they are more likely to reply or to engage with you after sending such kind of a perfect personalization, especially if it's you in the GIF animation. And after that, a second follow-up message which contains, let's say, by the way, I'd love to invite you to our upcoming cool webinar where we reveal some untapped strategies to promote your next event up to 1,000 plus attendees. I think we all can take advantage of such kind of a basics, and we all have a nice inputs to do this and to put in our own creativities. But this could be an interesting example on how to follow up such kind of a people who voted on your own poll. How to invite people through your network on autopilot. Now, Expandi has a really cool feature, and we all know that, or we all know, at least the ones who are hosting an event previously or joined an event, where you have the option, as you see on the left side in LinkedIn, to invite people manually. You can invite up to 1,000 people per day. It's a bit of a time consuming. So it can also be the fact, due to all the changes on LinkedIn, that they will stop shortly with the ability to invite such amount of people at a time. And to avoid that, you can use Expandi's event inviter to automatically invite people towards your event. It's a smart algorithm, so it will actually spread out the invites during the day with a maximum of 100 per day to be on the safe side. So that means that if Hans hosts the next event and he uses 3 profiles of his colleagues 1 month before, they all should be able to invite their first degree connections with 100 persons per day on each profile to attend that upcoming event, which will happen in the next month. That means that you can invite 9,000 people without any problems out of your first degree connections to join your event. The event invite campaign is not only for event owners, you can also use it if you participate and to invite your first degree connections on autopilot. It's a very cool opportunity, and if you start on time, this is actually your saver, and this strategy will mainly be used to gather on a consistent way the most attendees out of all the different strategies. And of course, if you have an audience with 10 or 20k people, you can set a simple Sales Navigator search, and if the event is marketing orientated, you can just set some filters and search in Sales Navigator along your first degree connections, which have something to do with marketing or the topic from the event. And then you can segment and break down the whole list and only invite people for which it makes a sense to be part of your event. So that should not be any problem if you have a lot of first degree connections along different industries, areas, and job titles. And you can solve that easily to just simply break that down with filters in Sales Navigator and then back import it into such a tool like Expandi. Scraping LinkedIn events. It's also one of my favorites. It's actually very easy to do. You can use it for different purposes. LinkedIn is full of events. I just mentioned that since the COVID kicked in, everybody is searching for new ways to break through the noise, and from physical events, it moves to such great events like we are in today and the past 4 days. You can easily host such an event on LinkedIn, but it's also a fact that you can easily find different events from other people on LinkedIn. And with one click of a button, you can join such an event. So if you find an event with a topic which is of your interest, then you can actually retarget all the people who attend on a specific event by using Expandi. Why it works so well? Because you can assume that its attendees are probably interested in news approaches which match the event topic. And out of own experiences, it's a really great starting point to gather people. If you're not very capable to do an in-depth Sales Navigator search, it's very easy to just go to the basic search bar in LinkedIn and help finding events based on a couple of keywords, attend that event, copy the event link, import it in Expandi, wait 3 minutes, and we will gather all the attendees in that event. A nice thing is that we also have a feature in place where you can message people in an event without making a connection request. So if you join the event, if you use Expandi, you can message people in a campaign which are also in that event without making a connection request. So it doesn't matter if it's the first, second, or third degree connection. Anyway, you can use it for different purposes. You can also use it if you not want to host your event, but just want to stand out of the crowd and have a better starting point instead of a basic Sales Navigator search. Group searches. I think we all know that there are a lot of groups on LinkedIn. Also in the basic search bar, you can set some additional filters as we see on the left side and select groups, for example, and target group members. For example, a group of people who are talking about social selling are very likely to be interested in a webinar about LinkedIn event lead generation. The best part of it, if you're in the same group as your prospects, you can message people you're already connected with, as well as second and third degree connections. No matter if you're using a third-party app, no matter if you're operating manual, keep that in mind that if you're in a group for at least 4 days, you can send messages to all the other people in the group. It's actually a similar thing as I just described and explained what you can do with people who are also joining the same event. And as we have a less connection requests in a week, we have to do a better job on the targeting, and this could be also a really interesting approach to bypass, for example, some 100 weekly limits. Open InMail campaigns. I think we all, for the ones at least who are active on LinkedIn, receive sometimes an InMail from people who want to approach themselves, who want to do a pitch. It's actually a similar thing like the cold email with a subject line. And due to these limits, you can use it, for example, to also bypass the connection request limits. Aside from a CSV import hack, we can use open InMail outreach campaigns to grow also webinar attendees. For us, it's one of the perfect ways to automate this within Expandi. And if you have a premium Sales Navigator, you can send open InMails to accounts that are also open, even if they are outside your network. And how that works is that if you gather a search, no matter from which source, if it's an event, a group, or if it's just a Sales Navigator search, if it's imported in Expandi, then we can filter if the profile has an open status, and we can select these people to use as a starting point from an open InMail campaign. And you can recognize, but again, that's already mentioned in one of the previous sessions, I think by Devin, that if, as you see here, the profile has this color, then it has an open status with such a kind of a logo. LinkedIn also has a limit. It's set by somewhere around 800 free open InMails allowed to send in one calendar month. This is what we're taking advantage of to bypass LinkedIn's connections limits and use this as an opportunity to spread out the word, to gather people for our event, to not sell something, but just to try and provide as much value to interest people to join something which could be beneficial for them. And if you're starting out tough, we recommend it to do it a bit low and start with somewhere around 25 open InMails per day. This could be an example of how you can use an InMail. The subject line can be just in this case, a webinar date. With some personalization and the messaging in it. And as you see on the right side, we also use a GIF animation, again from our colleague Ivan, because he was the one who shoot out these InMails. And this is some examples we used ourselves, and we got some great results and people who are signed up through these type of campaigns. Again, I will wrap up all these in-depth examples and strategies in an ebook, which I will send to all of you after the webinar, and I will see together with Hans what's the best way to do that. But there we deep dive a bit more, and we will untap much more strategies. So you can easily copy paste, you can use it as inspiration, just to help you promoting your event to the next stage and get on more than 1,000 attendees each and every time. It's a whole playbook. It will explain what you have to do before the event, after the event, and that is actually what you will get. An ebook filled with all the winning promotions, one-on-one templates. They are ready to use by yourself, which we will share with everybody in here and with all the people who sign up for the summit. In depth, what to do before, during, and after your LinkedIn event, how to automatically invite your network throughout the month. As I explained here, in total 12 untapped promotion strategies to get over 1,000 attendees to register, and the exact step-by-step blueprint that our team used to promote LinkedIn events on autopilot. I actually have here that ebook. It contains 97 pages full of pure practical value with templates, with email sequences, with how to follow up after the event. So it's a pure value bomb, and I will make sure that it will hit your inbox very, very soon. If you want to get in touch with me or you are looking for more resources, I think it's always interesting to learn from experts, because you don't live long enough to figure it all out by yourself. If you want to start using LinkedIn automation, just go to our Expandi site. If you only want to learn more about leveling up your LinkedIn and email outreach game, you can find more about in-depth strategies, playbooks, hacks, tactics on our blog site. It's expandi.io/blog. We have a close community where we untap a lot of interesting things for where you can meet with like-minded people. It's the LinkedIn Outreach family on Facebook. You can join and browse our masterclasses, which you can find on the Expandi homepage. You can also follow us on YouTube. And if you want to follow me and all the challenges and nice things I faced during my founder journey, just follow me on Twitter. It's Smulders Stefan 83. And actually, that's what I all wanted to share today with all of you. So thanks for your attention. I think Hans will check in to see if there are some questions, if things are clear.
Yep, forgot to unmute myself. Love it when it happens.
No problem.
Yeah, that was good. That was great. And I'm very, very much looking forward to the ebook. Like, yeah, I might even copy all that one by one, because we are very interested in ramping up our LinkedIn game, our content game in the next year. So yeah, that's. I mean, that's very. It's probably even better than what we had in mind already. Multi-channel outreach is even more relevant. Speaking for myself, and I think, to be honest, it's also probably a bit refreshing to have this, to have really more the growth hack side. After all, our cold email content, which was phenomenal, but in the
Definitely,
end, like,
definitely.
hey, we can talk a lot about cold email, but these growth hacks, they're very helpful, and they help us approach things in a more creative way. So that's great. Then you already mentioned it, but just and before we get to any questions, I hope, imagine people after this start, they got really excited. They said, "Listen, you know what, Expandi, this is a tool for me." Do they reach out to you? Do they reach out to Noah, who's on your team? Do they head over to Expandi.io? What is the best way to get started with Expandi?
Yeah, it's not my intention, first of all, to promote too much towards Expandi. It's just a tool like all the others we saw in the previous days. I think it makes much more sense that if you want to level up in these areas here, to first start with actually dividing for yourself, okay, what I want to achieve, how I want to do it, and search for a strategy and a visions. So I should recommend to just discover our blogs, to discover our playbooks, and actually from there on try to define for yourself, can this be an interesting thing for us as a company or as a team or as a founder to use it to ramp up our email and LinkedIn game. And again, it's just a tool. And of course, we provide the free trials for everybody who is signing up. We can onboard you, we can help you, but I think, to be honest, that's maybe a thing for in a bit later stage. It always starts with a plan, right? The ones with a plan will always win over the ones without a plan. And yeah, that's where we want to differentiate ourselves. We want to help you with tactics, with hacks, with great things. And so yeah, again, I should recommend to just discover our blog on the Expandi site as a starting point, and from there on, yeah, next step would be to try it out.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, and that value first approach, I think, is phenomenal. That's something that you don't really see a lot, where people say, "How do we get started with your tool?" And you tell them, "Listen, educate yourself first, or let us educate yourself, and then see if this is really for you. And then if you're getting started, you're getting started in the right way." So I think that's a phenomenal approach, and something that me myself as a founder as well, I can definitely learn from and take something away from that. And yeah, for one, I'm very excited to get started with some of the hacks that you discussed today. Then I'll give people some time to ask their questions. And
Yeah.
again, I'll repeat myself again, because some people that are watching on LinkedIn, and what we've noticed, that stream is sometimes lagging behind a little bit. So if you're watching on LinkedIn and you feel that your experience isn't great, or you see your question is coming in later than what you expected to come in, just head over to YouTube or refresh your stream every now and then, just to stay live pretty much. And then I'll give people, let's say, 30 seconds, 1 more minute to ask any questions that they might have. Then if you're watching the replay, you have any questions for Stefan, just really make sure that you reach out. I know he's active on Twitter, where I really enjoy following him as well. And obviously on Expandi.io, you can learn all about him and the team there. So if you're watching the replay, then Stefan, for people who are watching the replay, imagine in a month or 2 months from now, they're watching it and they're thinking, man, that ebook, that looks great, that looks phenomenal. Can they still grab one copy?
100%. Just shoot me a message through the socials. It can be, indeed, I'm very active on Twitter. Follow me there, send me an DM, and I will make sure that as fast as possible, I will shoot over that very valuable ebook.
Speed loves, everyone loves speed, and speed is important.
Yeah, and maybe to round up my talk, as a fan from the first day from your amazing line tool. I also experimented a lot with it, of course. And I, as you know, in the early days, I think it's a year ago, I wrapped up a really interesting playbook where I booked 17 appointments out of 176 contacts using open InMails with personalized lines created by Line. So the ones who are interested in that, I can share with love that playbook as well, because Line is one of my favorite tools for sure.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was great, and we enjoy sharing that one around as well. And that's pretty impressive. So 10%, not even 10% reply rate, but a 10% meeting booked rate, which I think is great. And yeah, we encourage everyone, either whether using Expandi, a different tool, to check out Line as well. And for anyone who is more advanced in the LinkedIn game, and you're saying, "Hey, listen, I'm going to get started right now with Expandi," you can grab a free trial at expandi.io. Stefan, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thanks a lot for today. Are you watching the game tonight? Just between us, both from Eindhoven. Oh,
Definitely.
yeah, good. Then
Yeah.
I'll let you get to that because it's starting in. For now, thanks a lot, and I see the next speaker is already backstage, so I will do a quick introduction for him, and then we can move on to the next talk. Stefan, thanks again, and we will definitely be in touch.
100%.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, people, here we are. The almost the last event of our cold email summit, almost the last event of the week, and almost the last event of the day, which is one that, well, I keep saying it, but it is very true, that I have been looking forward to, because it's something, an area where I'm personally at times lacking a little bit, which is personal productivity when it comes around sales, etc. I really like to dive down into rabbit holes and do stuff that comes on my plate as it comes up, which sometimes means that some of the other stuff just doesn't get done. And luckily, for us, we'll be joined by David Jacob, who is a productivity expert. His business is, well, based around that, is based around lead generation, sales. I'm just going to let him explain what it is that they do exactly. And David, I can see you backstage. Just give me a wave or a thumbs up if you're ready to go. Beautiful. Adding you to the stream right now. David, how's it going?
Hey Hans, how's it going? All good from my side. Very busy day. I'm
Yeah.
coming into the final stretch of my evening, and looking forward to sitting down and having a beer, I think.
Yeah. I can imagine. I know what that feels like. And look, we're both standing up.
I know. I love a standing
Yeah.
desk.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love a standing desk.
I remember that you were one of the first ones. Well, not, yeah. Well, obviously everyone was aware, but then you recommended it to me, tried it out, and yeah, I do feel, I get more stuff done standing up usually. So that was already your first productivity tip that really helped me out. So, would you? I already tried to give a bit of an introduction, but I'm sure that didn't do you justice. So, if you wouldn't mind just telling people a little bit who you are, where you're from, what it is you do, and what it is that
Absolutely.
your business does as well.
So I'm going to share my screen. I come from a consulting background, so screen sharing and slides and decks are just like my bread and butter. So let me know if this is now shared.
It is now.
Wonderful. All right, so productivity is a huge part of what we do. We also teach sales psychology, and like Hans said, we also do managed outbound. So let me just click through this. So really quickly, what I'm going to be going through today, why productivity is a very messy situation for most people. How do you actually become more productive? And then some fundamentals of sales psychology that I think are just paramount, that everyone knows, understands, and kind of gets into their head as soon as physically as possible for them. But first thing is, who am I, right? So I am a certified neuromarketer. My name is David. I co-founded a business called LeadHawks. So we are a growth agency for B2B businesses. So like I said before, we scale outbound outreach for our clients. We teach sales psychology, and then we also improve productivity. So the real question is, why is productivity messy, right? So before we can even get there, we have to answer the question, what is productivity? And anyone who's in the chat right now, please leave your responses. I'd be fascinated to find out what productivity means to you. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. Okay, fine. And then in its simplest form, as what we understand it as, productivity is how effectively you use your time, right? If you effectively use your time for whatever tasks are at hand, you are being productive. So that's how we do it. The reality of the situation when it comes to productivity is it relies on attention, and more often than not, it's maintaining attention, but there are different forms of attention that people don't really know or hear about a lot. So sustained attention is the most obvious one, and what I think most people think about when they think about attention. So focusing on one activity for a really long period of time. The next is selective attention, right? So when you're distracted, if you're like working in a coffee shop, for example, you've got to focus on one thing whilst there are a million others going on around you. And then the final one is divided attention. So this is focus that takes place during multitasking, right? So you've got, your kid in one hand and you're replying to emails in another, and you've got a phone by your ear and you're trying to manage all three, and all three of them kind of go a little bit less than optimally. Divided attention is by far the worst kind of attention, and it's the one that we want to try and avoid the most when we're talking about productivity. So when we think about productivity at LeadHawks, we think about it across a spectrum, right? So we call it the productivity continuum. And this goes from less productive on the left-hand side to more productive on the right-hand side. And there's a neutral part in the middle where you're kind of productive, but you're maybe not as productive as you could be, right? We split that into planned activities being the most productive thing you can do. If you plan an activity and you say, I'm going to do this at this time, the likelihood is you will complete it. Unplanned activities probably fall on the less productive side, where stuff just comes up and you just need to do it, and it might take you a little bit longer than you thought it would take when you started, but you got to get it done because stuff just comes up and you need to fix it. And then neutral activities are in the middle. So this is stuff like lunch breaks, or like meetings that you just need to attend all of the time for no real reason, but you've got to be there, monthly general meetings, etc. The issue that occurs in our head, we think we spend a lot of time on the right-hand side of this spectrum, right? So doing planned activities, doing productive work. We spend a little bit of time doing neutral activities in the middle, and we don't really spend any time on unplanned activities because, we're really directed with how we spend our time. The reality of the situation and what we actually do is spend a lot of time on unplanned activities. We spend very little time taking breaks or actually in meetings that are truly worthless. And then the time that we have for planned activities is actually way less than we think. So how do we actually become more productive? That's the question that I think you all want answered. And the reason that we help teach productivity, right, is to answer the question, how do I become more productive? So the first thing that we need to do is prioritize effectively. And if you can prioritize effectively, you will, by the very nature of what you're doing, become more productive. So there's two things that we use to prioritize effectively. The first is the DEAD framework, and the second is the Eisenhower matrix. And if you can use both of these tools really well, the likelihood is you will become far more productive than any other productivity hack or list or anything else, right? So I'm going to go through each of these tools in turn. So the DEAD framework stands for decide, eliminate, automate, and delegate. And the explanation's on the right-hand side. So first you need to decide, is this actually going to move the needle for whatever is the highest ROI task that you have? The second is eliminate any task that doesn't actually push you towards that goal or the end result that you're looking for. Automate is pretty simple. It's very much talked about within, the communities that we all run in. SaaS tools, Zapier, what can I automate to take it off my plate or my employees' plates? And then finally, the one that everyone hates doing is delegating. If you can't decide, eliminate, or automate, and you have to delegate, then do it. Everything else can be and should be delegated to someone else because your time is the most valuable. If you're an agency owner, the likelihood is you are spending a lot of time on stuff that you should be delegating, but you don't want to let go of. So to address the first point of actually deciding, we use the Eisenhower matrix. And I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with this, but it splits across an axis: urgent and not urgent, and important and not important. And when we categorize tasks into these buckets, we have an ability to decide if something is urgent and important, if something is not urgent or important, and any other variation of the matrix. The question becomes, what do you do with that information, right? So if something is urgent and important, generally these things are going to have a specific deadline. And if you don't do it by that specific deadline, they have serious consequences. So do it now. If something is not urgent and important, you should probably decide when to do it, right? So schedule a time to do it in the near future that allows you to get to it when you can, but still means that it will get done. If something is urgent but not important, it's a task that should be done. So either delegate it or automate it. And then finally, if it's not important and it's not urgent, delete it, get rid of it. You don't need to do that because it's not urgent and it's not important, right? So avoid doing these kind of tasks at all cost. They offer very little value in actually completing and are by and large massive time drains. So get rid of those tasks and focus on the other three. So the big thing that we hear a lot in productivity is, oh, I spend so many hours working. And that's great. But really, if you're not working optimally during those hours, then maybe there's a problem with that. So the reality of the situation is you're not going to be focused on a task the whole time. It's almost impossible. There are very few people who can be 100% locked in the entire time they're working. It's just how the human brain works. You need to factor in times that you can take a mental break. And hustle culture means that we don't like thinking about breaks, because if you're not working, you're not earning, and you can't grow a business unless you work 45 hours a day. And that's just not true. Your brain needs time to relax. Your brain needs time to essentially take in all of the information that you've given it and give out solutions after the fact, right? So factor in times to take a mental break. We call these relaxation rituals, and everyone will have a different one. So mine is going for a long walk. I love being outside. If I can go for a long walk, that is infinitely more relaxing to me. My business partner is a producer by trade. He makes music. So listening to music for him is a relaxation ritual. It isn't for me. I cannot tell you what is your relaxation ritual, but it will come to you pretty naturally when you think about the things that, if you had the time, I would make an AeroPress coffee and sit outside in the sun for 10 minutes. Then that's your relaxation ritual, right? Whatever it is that can kind of get you to switch off, even if it's for 10 minutes, is something that you should be factoring into your day, because it will make you more productive and it will improve mental clarity. The other thing is time of day. So some people are morning people. I'm very jealous. Some people are night owls. And I am far more of a night owl than a morning person. If you try and make me work at 6 a.m. in the morning, I would struggle doing that effectively for a very long period of time. If you told me that I could have my entire morning and I started work at 1 o'clock and could work until 2 in the morning, I'm all for it, right? The start of my day will be slightly slower. And then as time goes on into the evening, I will really get energized. Schedule the most draining tasks, the mentally draining tasks, when you're most alert and active. So for me, that's going to be right at the end of the day. My business partner is a morning person. So for him, that's going to be right when he starts his day. There's no point in trying to get the most mentally draining task out of the way when you first sit down if you're a night owl and the most productive time for you is actually in the evening. So you need to work out your ideal working hours. And if you can do that effectively and you say to yourself, you know what, I'm actually most productive between the hours of 2 in the afternoon and 6 in the evening, so my morning is kind of unproductive, then schedule the least mentally draining tasks then. Get them out of the way and give your brain time to warm up. So by the time you come to the point where you get into the flow states and you get into really effective working, you're already in your most alert and active. So this is what we call defining your day. So if you schedule time blocks in your day for focused work, remembering all the way back to the start, with a tangible end goal, you have to write a list of things that you have to accomplish for that day. Writing to-do lists is a very common thing in our space. If any of them take less than 2 minutes, mark them accordingly, right? And then schedule focus time on time-consuming tasks when you're most active. So for me, it would be kind of like into the later part of the day. You can map your day really, really effectively. When you're doing 2-minute tasks, use that knowledge of when you're most active and most mentally engaged to schedule the 2-minute tasks away from that period. So, for example, my business partner would probably have a day that looks something like this. In the morning, he would do 2 hours of focused work. Then he'd have a 30-minute relaxation ritual. Then another 3 hours of focused work. And then right at the end of the day, when he's really drained and he doesn't really want to be working anymore, he can smash out 10 2-minute tasks and still feel like he's done a lot of work. If I was to do this, I'm going to schedule my 2-minute tasks at the front of my day. And then as time goes on, it would be a 2-minute task drill, then a relaxation ritual for 30 minutes, and then focused work, probably another relaxation ritual, and then focused work again, because I have a longer time frame to do it in. With all that said, if you're able to segment your day like this, the likelihood is you will feel infinitely more productive and more relaxed because you're giving yourself time to actually de-stress a little bit. You're getting so much more done because you're doing focused work for time-blocked amounts. And you have all of the little itty-bitty tasks that would ordinarily disrupt your day blocked into a small part of your day that will come really easy for you because you're not even really that mentally aware at that point. So that was productivity in a nutshell in, 10 minutes, right? We do this as a coaching program where we use a really cool bit of technology that we help develop, a dashboard and constant check-ins to actually improve productivity over a longer period. And there's so much more I could talk about it, but I was speaking to Hans before and he said, can you do something on sales psychology? So I said, all right, let me give you some fundamentals of sales psychology in the next 10 minutes and leave some time for questions if there are any. So the first thing that we need to go over is positive versus zero-sum games. And if any of you are familiar with economics, or you did it at college, or you did it at high school, then this should make some sense based on what you already know. So the first question is, what are zero-sum games? So these are win-lose situations. Think most sport games. Think like running the 100 meters in the Olympics. There are very, 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 very rarely a draw in that, right? They use photo finishes, they use like electronic timers, right? The goal is somebody wins and everyone else doesn't, and they come second or third or whatever, right? There has to be a winner and a loser. In a sales situation, this immediately puts you at odds with the other person, because if you have to win, then the other person by definition has to lose. This in negotiation science is called distributive bargaining. And the easiest way to explain this is to imagine a pie, right? It's a very pretty pie that I've made worth $1,000. If you have to distribute this, the likelihood is, unless you are 50-50, someone is getting more than someone else. That person is winning and the other one is losing. So if you distribute this $1,000-piece pie, $1,000 pie into equal pieces, each piece is worth 125 bucks. So for every 125 bucks, one person gains, the other person loses the equivalent amount. And if you've read any psychology books ever, you'll know about loss aversion. And loss aversion is one of the most primary, most defining elements of human behavior. We will do anything to avoid loss aversion. So the pain of that, the pain of losing that $125 is going to be felt in the human brain twice as much as gaining the same amount. So we will try our damnedest to keep as much of that pie as humanly possible. Now, let's take that kind of conceptual and put it into a real situation. So person A on the left-hand side and person B are getting divorced. Very sad. Person A maintained the couple's financial health. They homeschooled the kids. They're the reason the couple is wealthy. However, person B earned 3 times as much and bought all of the assets. So how do you divide this situation in a way that seems fair or understandable? Well, if you were to look at it very cynically, person B earned 3 times as much and bought all the assets, so they should take more of the things, right? They should probably end up with more, and person A should end up with less. The issue here is you don't know these people's motivations. So if you knew that person A wanted to continue to live in the city and wanted to continue homeschooling the kids, and you knew that person B traveled a lot for work and they wanted to keep the foreign houses that they had, now it becomes very easy to start bargaining between the two of them and understanding what they could actually benefit from. So if we know that person A wants to live in the city, then they should probably keep the house that the pair live in, because they also want to homeschool. So don't disrupt the kids. You get to live in the current house and homeschool the kids. Great. Person B travels a lot for work. Well, you should probably take the foreign houses, because at that point, you know that you're going to be able to have somewhere to go to whenever you're somewhere out of the country. Now, person A gets what they want. Person B also gets what they want. And it doesn't come down to intangibles like price or, in some cases, the value of something. So positive sum games are win-win situations, right? So if both sides cooperate, they can come to a deal that is mutually beneficial. And these are always discussions about value and never about price. So focus on how much you can actually give to the other person while taking what you actually want from a situation versus just trying to win in every single one. And this is what negotiation science calls integrative bargaining. So now the same $1,000 pie now has two equally valued drinks. One is clearly a Coke and one is clearly a Fanta. Now, if we go back to the person A and person B, instead of just dividing the pie, you can now negotiate using the $250 drinks. They are valued the same. They are both sodas. The only difference is the flavor. Well, if person A loves the drink that person B has, and person B is completely indifferent about the flavor of the drink that they have, but getting extra pie would actually make them happy. If person A is willing to trade some more pie for switching to the other person's drink, now everyone feels like they've got to an equitable end goal. But if we were just looking at value, there's nothing to negotiate on the table. You have to be able to understand the motivations behind these people. And if you understand what matters to them, now you are in a far better place to negotiate. And it seems very simple, right? But the problem with most businesses is they try and negotiate on price versus value. And if you look at this diagram, the price of everything is exactly the same. So there is no negotiation to be had. But if you find out that person B doesn't really care about the flavor of the drink, but person A loves their flavor, loves the other person's, now there is more room to negotiate. So integrative bargaining is all about bringing things to the table. So by bringing the drinks, they can have discussions about what is most valuable to them. In this case, the flavor of the drink. So if you align the other person's incentives with yours and make clear what would make a winning deal in your mind, now they might bring something to the table that you didn't even realize they cared or didn't care about. And if you can get to these situations, this is how you'll end up with far more valuable deals because they feel like they're winning. And if they feel like they're winning, they're happy to help you cross that line too. Like I said, if person A never mentions that they like person B's drink, it'll never be part of that negotiation set. The prices are exactly the same, but the value is fundamentally different. So like I said, positive sum games are very much discussions about value, not about price. So how do we create positive sum games? You have to find out what the other person can bring to the table. For that, there needs to be an open discussion, and you need to be open with that. So if you can come to the table being fairly transparent and saying, hey, look, this is what would make this deal really great for me. What would do the same for you? If you find out what the other person can negotiate with, you can find out what you can gain. And if you never find that out, then it will always be a discussion about features, what you offer, and how you can, come down to the lowest price because they can find it somewhere else for cheaper. If you know what's important to them, you can bring things to the table that matter. You have to be able to prepare to make concessions here because inevitably there will be things that you really want that they're unwilling to give without getting something back. So focus on what you can give, not what you can get. So where do we go from here? So if you want to know how to implement both of these things and a lot more, because I had to squeeze this into 20 minutes, because Hans told me it was a pretty short presentation. We do what we call the LeadHawks Productivity Accelerator. So this is the productivity part of what I spoke about. So it's weekly check-ins with us. We give you a productivity methodology to kind of optimize your business and also your day-to-day, your personal life. One of the most common things we hear from agency owners is, my business is going great, but I barely spend any time with my kids. And my wife or husband or partner is constantly at me because they feel like I'm not prioritizing them, but I can't because I have so much work to do. You will gain back hours of your time each week just by learning to prioritize effectively, to analyze and understand how you're spending your time and how to solve the problems that come up. You will be able to achieve more in less time, and there's going to be a discount for everyone here if you want to join that program. The second thing is a sales psychology masterclass that we call Cultivate Your Close. It will enable you to close more sales. You will stop having to hard sell and kind of using the closing techniques that a lot of other sales teachers will tell you to use because, quote unquote, they work. If you have ad block on your computer, you know that sales techniques don't work. Otherwise, you would watch ads, and you don't because you hate it and you hate being sold to. So closing techniques fall into the same bucket. You'll learn some neuro-linguistic programming and neuromarketing, and you'll get weekly calls with sales psychology experts. The maximum cap we have for an individual organization is 5 people. So if you would like that, if you would like more and you'd like us to kind of like come in and do a larger organization, please let us know. We're happy to do it. But for normal ones we do, it is 5 people. So I hope this has been interesting. That wraps up my presentation. I hope the productivity stuff was really interesting. I hope the sales psychology was at least interesting and wasn't teaching you how to suck eggs, because everyone in here has to be a salesperson. So Hans, thank you for having me. Really appreciate your time.
There we go. And I'm unmuted this time. Love that. By the way, I love seeing ads.
There's always one. There's always one who loves it.
There's always one. No, I think plenty of people in marketing. I have a swipe file, and if I see some cool ads, screenshot, bam, they go in there. But that's not really fair because, hey, I'm in marketing. So yeah, definitely. People hate ads. People hate being sold. It's a cliche. People hate being sold to, but they love buying, don't they?
Exactly that.
All right. I mean, that was phenomenal. I understand that it was a bit of a
whistle stop tour.
Yeah, it was, and it's the end of the week for me. It's been a long week, so I cannot come up with a word right now. But I can imagine that having to digest, having to put all that in 10 minutes and 10 minutes, so in 2 10-minute blocks, that didn't do justice to what it is that you have to teach. So you mentioned you have 2 programs, 2 accelerators, and so anyone who's watching this right now, anyone who's watching the replay, they can head over to LeadHawks, leadhawks.co.uk. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely, yeah.
So leadhawks.co.uk, and that's where they can get in touch with you. And
or just drop me an email, david@leadhawks.co.uk.
Well, that's easy enough. And yeah, just I'm gonna have you stick around for a few more seconds, just because I've said it before, like people there on LinkedIn, but there's a bit of a delay there. People on YouTube, where they're just joining, maybe they have some questions for you around either sales psychology, or around general productivity. And yeah, this is just another one of those talks that I will be watching back. I'm already experimenting with time blocking, but then how you presented it, that was just an eye opener for me, and I was sending it to some people in my family as well, because I know they're all about that productivity. And actually, that's a book as well, isn't it? Getting shit done.
Getting shit done. Yeah. Another psychology book I would recommend to basically everyone is Indistractable by Nir Eyal. Fascinating stuff on how to stop being distracted by everything around you, which in the world we live in is almost impossible.
Yeah, exactly. I think I have it on my Kindle, but I get too distracted to actually make time for reading. But yeah, so seems that there are no real questions for you right now. But again, anyone who's either watching this right now, who's watching this later, definitely either connect with David on LinkedIn. I know he's on LinkedIn. He's pretty active on Twitter as well, so you can reach out on Twitter. That's David_Jacob_1. And check out leadhawks.co.uk or david@leadhawks.co.uk. David, thanks so much. We'll most definitely be in touch, and have a great rest of your day, and enjoy your beer later.
Thanks a lot. Great to see you, Hans. Bye-bye.
And that was David, who was teaching us about productivity, as something that I was looking forward to, because it's very relevant for me, very relevant to me. So I'll be watching that one back, and I will start time blocking even more effectively, hopefully. So if you want to do any workshops around sales psychology, if you want to do any workshops around productivity, just make sure to reach out to David. And then we are getting to the very last event of our Cold Email Summit. The time really is here, and I can already see our latest speaker backstage, Amelia, and she is ready to go. She's ready to talk about her cold email secrets. And I'm going to do a really quick introduction, and then I'll bring her on stage and she can present herself as well. But she works at Carabiner Group, which is a company that I have been following with a lot of interest lately on podcasts, etc., because they do some really cool stuff in the RevOps field. So if that is something that you're interested in, then just definitely stick around. You want to catch this one. And just a quick note I see a bunch of people on YouTube and still people on LinkedIn as well. So just for the final time of this summit, if you feel your LinkedIn stream isn't as good as it should be, maybe it's lagging a little bit, maybe you feel you're not really live, just switch over to YouTube. I will actually drop that right now in the LinkedIn comments, just because LinkedIn seems to be having some issues there. And that's where you can follow us as well. And I will pop that up on the screen. So that is us on YouTube. So you can visit us there. You can watch us there as well. Now, Amelia, I can see you backstage. If you can give me a thumbs up or a quick wave if you're ready. 2 thumbs up. She seems super ready and excited to get started. And I know that you probably you brought a lot of fans who are waiting to to see your face, because if a LinkedIn activity was any indication, then people are very much looking forward to hearing you speak. So I'll bring you on in 1 second. Here we go. And you are live, Amelia. How's it going?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Well, it's been 4 very interesting days. It's the 4th day of live streaming. I think we have done about 15 hours of live streaming altogether.
Oh my
We've
gosh,
had,
you broke LinkedIn. I feel like maybe that's the reason it's lagging. I feel like the live might be because you've just dominated it.
that could be. I appreciate the positive spin on that. And yes, I mean it's been going great. We've had yesterday, for example, we had, what was it, 4.5, nearly 5,000 views. I have a feeling that we will actually top that today, that we're going to do even better, because we had some great speakers, we had some big names. I mean, just you, I think you're one of the favorite people in Rev Genius, and I think people really are looking forward to what you have to share. I know I am. So if you wouldn't mind just starting with a little bit of introduction. I already know a little bit about who you are, what you do, but I mean, people love to hear about that from you yourself. So what is you do? Maybe a bit about Carabiner Group. Yeah, I pronounced that right? Carabiner.
Carabiner. Yep. People, it's yeah. Think of the hook. Yeah, we hook it all together.
That is good.
Very good. Now you'll remember.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'll remember. So that's good. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind giving us a bit of introduction, then let us know what you were talking about today, and then after that, I'll leave you to it.
Awesome. I am pumped to be here to begin with. When you reached out, Hans, I was very much so taken back, thinking, okay, how in the world am I alongside some of these brilliant minds in the just SaaS sales industry, the emails that I get from these people who are teaching me how to do things. But it's so cool to see the people that you know, and it's so true. Your network is your net worth, right? I mean, it is, honest to God, it's so true. But it also is just the relationships that you build that are just so powerful that will take you to the next level, whatever that next level is. And just being here is the next level for me. So starting off with saying I'm pumped to be here. So I am down in Tampa, Florida, and I am first and foremost a mommy to 2 little girls who are total hellions. I love them more than anything, but the parents of the world, y'all get it. So the work from home is trickier than not with them sometimes, but we make do, right? There's wine. Right. So we're good. But really, I have one main objective when it comes to stepping into this office every day, and that's to help people. My goal is to help. And if I don't have that mindset of when I'm going to sell or when I'm going to send that email or make that call or connect through a community, Pavilion, whatever Slack community it is, if I don't have that in my mind, if I'm going to help you, opposed to I'm just going to make a dime off you, I'm going to be out of there like that. I'm going to get burnt out from it, because helping gives you that dopamine hit almost. It's like this is good. This is good. Like I feel good about myself of what I'm doing and contributing with. And so I'm working at Carabiner. So I'm an account executive over there, and I'm learning from the top people over there. I mean, we just had Rosalind Santelena join us, which is humongous. And I am so excited to just try to grab her brain and throw it into mine, because it is just so beyond brilliant. And I'm learning every day new ways to do things, such as there's a difference when you're selling a product versus service. And that sell is a different kind of approach, but both have to be relationally driven. There's got to be the relationship aspect that comes the very first and foremost portion of it. With that, there's the trust, so the conversations can't be, hey, boom, let me try to pitch you and then I'm done. So that goes into exactly what it is I really want to chat about today.
We'll see those in our inbox, right? And I think I saw a question of you come by on, when was that day 2 with Will Allred, where you asked about, hey, how do I approach this if I'm selling a product, selling a service? I think that was you.
Yes. So
Yeah.
get this. So, hey, Will, if you're watching, so I sent him a message right afterwards, and I was like, I need to figure this out. I'm trying hard, and I'm doing well, but I know I can refine this. So I'm going straight to the guy that I'm also speaking, on the same platform with, which is crazy that I'm able to do so. But I have it on a Post-it because I write so many things on Post-it so I don't forget, because I'll forget things. And so I even sent him a picture of the Post-it that he told me this. So he said, think of it this way, make it really simple. So don't be over personalized with what it is you're trying to do. So think of it like you're at a conference. You're not going to go be that weirdo walking up to someone telling them all kinds of things you know about them. You're going to play it cool. So I was like, okay, noted. Don't be the weirdo at the conference, play it cool. So I literally have a Post-it right now that says, don't be the weirdo at the conference, play it cool. So it's where, I have to keep that in my mind of, I don't have to, even if I know everything about you, I know your dog's name, I know all things, right? Like, I don't have to tell you that, but I can throw it in when it makes sense, when we've got that trust and that relationship established. But I'm not going to be the weirdo that's like, how's your dog, at the conference, right?
Yeah, that's personalization. That's personalization,
Yeah.
and there's stalking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. But to go off of what you were saying a little bit more about myself, I am soon to be SDR coach with Trainio, and I've been helping with Rev League and coaching within there as well, which has been great, which is where I was able to transition into the revenue operations world. And I didn't realize I was trying to bridge these gaps at the company I was with previously, to where I wanted sales and marketing to talk. I wanted everything to talk. And I didn't want a new email domain constantly, to where I felt like things were burning and burning and burning. And so nothing changes till something changes, right? So I kept thinking, all right, a change is going to come, but I'm just going to be patient and I'm going to keep building relationships the way I know how to do it. And that's doing it through the dark social sort of platform, going through, and let me clarify, that does not mean the dark web people. People do not understand. Let me just totally clarify that.
Being a weirdo on the dark web.
Right. Like, I promise you I'm not doing that. I don't know how to do any of that. But that's even texting, going and texting somebody or sending them a video message. That there's, or voice memo. There's different ways to do the outreach that aren't the norm or the status quo or the things that people say, XYZ, this is what you do, this is how you get a hold of people. Do I think cold calling's dead? Should I even talk about any of that? I don't think it's dead. I think it works great for some people, and some people are really great at social selling. Sure. And I think you've got to figure out who you are and who you're not, what you're good at, what your downfalls are of it, and not your greatest strengths. Those are equally as important. Exactly. You've got to know both.
Exactly. So you're saying, depending on who you are, what type of a salesperson you are, like, you could be more leaning towards the demand generation side, or you could be leaning more towards really hard SDR type roles.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. I mean, right before, there was the hustle and grind talk, right? It's the hustle culture and go, make as many dials as you can. And I've been there, done that, and I made the dials. And I can say I also started to see, all right, let me A/B test this stuff. Let me see if these dials are actually converting into something that makes sense, that are actually going to make me money, going to make the company money. Or can I go and do my own outreach that's going to be not just personalized, that's great, but let me make it relevant to you based off of whatever industry trends are going on, whatever's going on in the market right now, whatever it is that is going to make sense to you based off your persona and based off of whatever's going to make you look good, because that's whatever position you're in. You're a CRO, we're going to talk money. right? I'm not going to go talk to you about marketing. That's not my goal of an ad campaign, right? So let's be relevant with our conversations. That's something I feel like is missed a lot when it comes to the whole go. Let's make as many dials as we can, or let's push as many emails out as we can. And let's send it to a VP of sales. Let's send it to the CRO. Let's send it to the whole C-suite. And then let's send it to some champions within who, leaders and whatnot, who, they might not be able to do much with it, and it'll just go to their inbox and they'll be like, okay, did you get blasted with this too? And it'll probably go in their Slack and everybody will be like, wow, these people need to stop.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely different.
Just wanted to make sure that you're not giving away all your secrets before we get to.
That was actually not even my secret stuff. That was secret. So
all right, that's good then. So what I'll do is I'll let you get to the actual secrets, because if there's more than this, then I'm for one super excited to hear it. So what I'll do is I'll mute myself. I'll go off stage. I'm backstage. So if you need anything, I'll just be here. And then for anyone who's watching, if you're in the comments, just drop a comment for Amelia. If you have any questions, just whether you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere, just drop your comments in there. We get to see them here in the studio, and we can either address your questions, comments, etc. during the talk. By the end, however, that just comes naturally. However, we feel is the best way to process that. So Amelia, if you're ready, then I think we are as well.
Awesome. I just share. I'm good.
Yeah, you should be good to go. Let's see, because we had Devin earlier who had some issue with Chrome and updates and everything. So I'll just stick around for a little bit.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I can sell the tech, but am I the tech giver? No. So
and also not trying to jinx anything here.
Right. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm sharing. I'm just going to share my screen. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. That's the cool thing about this technology. You can either share directly from Drive, your screen, but usually your screen is just fine.
Okay, here we go. Share. Okay, do you see my screen?
Not yet, but it can still come up.
Okay, wait for it.
Sure.
Okay, I have to go. Oh, wait, I know what I'm doing. Okay. Sorry, people. Sorry.
That's all good. I mean, they've been with us for 4 days now. Where I said needed 15 hours. I'm pretty confident that these couple of seconds here that they have
not the first time.
And we're all excited for those secrets. So it's going to be worth the wait. We're sticking around. Don't worry.
I love it. Awesome. Y'all are the best. Okay. We are almost there. Hold on.
Sure, and that just gives me the chance to, for the final time and probably for the 100th time, to mention to people that if you're watching this on LinkedIn, because I noticed that quite a few people, they were interacting with your post on LinkedIn. I think you brought some fans that if you're watching on LinkedIn, you feel like, hey, maybe things are lagging a little bit, or I don't have the feeling that I'm live, or maybe the stream is pausing, because that's something that we've been experiencing throughout the week. Then I posted the YouTube link right here that you can follow as well. So you can watch on YouTube as well, which for most people is just a little bit more of a smooth experience. And while we're also live on Facebook, but that's for our Power Users group, which are more than welcome to join. But going to YouTube is probably the best way for you to get started and watching us and watching Amelia, our final event of the Cold Email Summit.
Because I'm killing it right now.
Yeah, that's all good. We also have a beautiful video that we have made with some really funky music that people really enjoy. So if you're saying, hey, listen, I'm not 100% sure if I can get this started in 20 seconds, and I'll play the video, take a quick break. People can get some water, myself included, and then just whenever you're ready, we can have you share your screen. So
do that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because
all right.
Do that. Yes.
Sure, because it's some good music. So I'm sure we've actually been getting requests from people to play music some more. So actually,
good. I love that.
So we're right back, people. Here we are again. That was, again, not as smooth as I would like it to be, but we are back and we are live. And Amelia, I'll give you 1 second, then I'll add you to the stream, and you are live as well.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Thank y'all for being patient and understanding. And so
here's the long-awaited screen, everyone, that we have been waiting for and that we have been so excited to see.
Well, I am super excited. And so, okay, let me share again. Okay, share screen. Share screen. Boom, boom. All right, so I'm just gonna get started.
Yeah, sure. I can see your screen backstage. Are you ready for me to add it to the stream? Because then we are gonna.
Yeah, you can do it like that?
Yes, most.
You can add this tab. Oh, perfect.
There you go. Look at that. I have full control, full power over this stream.
Okay, so
and then
can you go to this tab?
No, that should be you. So then you cannot see the stream and you cannot see our chat, but you should be good to go. So you can just stick to the other tab. Then you can do your presentation. If anything goes wrong, if there's anything, then I'll just let you know.
I can actually.
Or if you have multiple, multiple screen setup.
Screens.
Look at you go.
Yeah. But okay, this is not going swimmingly, and I'm sorry, people, and I'm so sorry. Okay, so should I stop sharing and just how should I get this not to be so aggressive?
Yeah, so I just stop sharing for now, and then whenever you're good to go, give me a shout, and I'll add that to it. And then I want to see who we have in the comments. So let me just actually drop a comment on here on LinkedIn and see who came to here. See.
So okay, and this should not be this crazy, right?
Just curious who actually came here from, Amelia's following. So either here from Ref Genius, from anyone else who interacted with us on LinkedIn. Just curious who came specifically for this and for the cold email secrets. If you can give like a thumbs up or a +1 in the chat, then we know. Or it could be that they're busy because we're getting towards the end of this week, and people have targets to hit and quota to make. So they'll probably catch the replay. So if you're watching the replay, just make sure that you let us know as well later, that you tell Amelia, hey, listen, watch the replay. Love that you rocked it. And then, well, that you let us know as well, hey, line guys, we watched the replay. Maybe leave a comment on YouTube saying, hey, watch the replay, love what we had to bring. This is our final event of the week, and well, should be a good one. And I'm excited for some cold email secrets, because we've been hearing a lot of good stuff, and well, some additional secrets and a bonus as well from what I've read is just what I've been waiting for.
Okay, so I just saved this. So I think that I can do this as like a PDF or like just my file that I have called email right here. Okay. This should work. Let's hope, because I don't know why it wouldn't.
I have full faith in our technology today.
I have full faith in technology too. In technology and myself using the tech. No, that's why would rather sell the tech, if than do the tech.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
So
most important.
What I can do? Let me do this. Can I just drop like the link to you?
Yeah, that could potentially work as well. We can try and make that work. I'm sure we'll find a way.
Okay. Or I can just start talking and share.
You can start talking. You can share. Or if you're saying, I think the best way is if you just have it open in an additional tab like you just had. Then the only thing is you're not going to see the screen. You're not going to see me. But then again, I'm just going to be backstage either way, so that shouldn't be an issue. So if you want my recommendation, just go back to what you just had. You have that tab on there, and you're just going to see your tab. You're going to be talking to a tab pretty much. But if if people cannot see it, they'll let us know. So that should be all good.
Perfect. All right, that's what I will do, and that'll be easy. So let me add that back in. So I did the whole standing desk thing recently too. And so yesterday, side note, I decided to set this up. I took my door off. Still can't get my old desk out of my office. Right. So it's to the side of me right now. So everything is totally, I'm like, all right, my mouse is not wanting to go to each of the monitors the way it should. Right. So,
Yeah, I've been there. Don't worry. I also have a dual monitor set up, and now I work from home. I had to shift like my office to a different room and all that. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'm not a stranger to any of it. So that's all good. Eventually, eventually you'll get there.
Okay, so tell me if this is good with you having this right here up.
Yeah, this is perfect. So what I'll do, I'll add it to the stream. I'll actually do that right now, and then you can see this. People are able to see this. I can see it. So if this works for you, then we're ready.
Awesome. That's great.
Beautiful. We made it.
We made it. We made it in our own way. So this is what we're going to do. We're doing it kind of in a very unorthodox way. And I like ending on that kind of note. So we're going to run with it. I am not one of the biggest fans of just blasting people with emails by any stretch of the imagination. I find zero effectiveness by doing so. I've never found, let's say 1 out of 100, they're going to come back to me and be interested, maybe 2. But if I'm wasting my time solely blasting things out to people where it's not going to be, like I was sharing earlier, relevant and personalized, more so relevant, how is this going to help that person? Then I'm not doing my job right. So let's just kind of dive right in with what the secrets are that I have when it comes to cold email for sales that I've picked up through just trial and error, or from reaching out to some of the greats who know what they're doing more so than I do. But you've got to learn by testing the waters, right? So let's just kind of dive in. So I shared a bit about myself. I've got my two precious girls, and I'm an AE over at Carabiner Group, and we're a full service RevOps consultancy. And so I'm also a co-author at with Heidi Orlick, who and a bunch of women in sales who have just completely, like the title is saying, how women are dominating in business to business sales. So I was super honored to be able to be a part of this amazing book with these amazing women who know what they're doing when it comes to things such as email and outreach and empathy and relevancy, so on and so forth. I'm a super active member within Pavilion. We have a platinum partnership with them, which is amazing. So there's a lot of, I'm going to a little happy hour tonight with Pavilion. So yay, I'm excited to see people in person. And Rev Genius has been just kindred spirit kind of thing to me. I love the people over there. Other sales communities, I mean, Dale Dupree has Rebellion. There's so many that I am a part of, that I'm active in. And there's a lot that goes into that because I know that my people also live there. The people that I'm reaching out to live within these communities too. And so I like to think of myself as having this strategic mindset, but it's also rebellious in the sense that I'm going to test the waters and challenge that status quo of what everyone else is doing, with the goal being, let me plant seeds to see if either they're going to come to fruition right now or down the line. And having that mindset of, okay, I'm going to grow no matter what. If I'm either learning by failing, or I'm either going to grow from that failure. You know, there's no downward way of going if you have that mindset of, okay, I'm going to win, or I'm going to learn and grow. So here's what I really want to chat about. So process and technology together, mixing those two. The absolute core skill for anybody who is cold emailing is to simply, and it's so simple, the goal is to have a conversation about a problem and figure out where to have those conversations. And then I've got my three secrets for my cold email, and then a little bonus if you guys stick around. So technology, it amplifies success and failure. You have to always start with a good process in place, because the process is going to amplify that technology. Technology works for us, but we're also humans. So we need to have these processes put into place. Technology can do the work on our behalf. So we can amplify all of this. We can push things out. We can make sure that we're doing it at mass towards the right people, the right audience, the right TAM, you know, your ICP, so on all these acronyms out there, right? And that's a good process, because you're going to have that single focus of who it is you're going to reach, but the right messaging with the tech that's going to back you up with making sure it's going to be deliverable and get into their mailbox, which is going to be one of the biggest things too. Bad process, vice versa, same exact thing. You know, you've got to have the tech there's brilliant people who built this technology. You've got to have the tech that's going to back you up. And it starts with a good process, though, that humans are the ones that have to develop that. Going back to conversations, if you're in sales, you have to have conversations. That is going to, how are you selling if you're not having conversations? Truly, how? I have no clue. I really don't. I mean, there's the word of mouth, there's the referrals. Great. There's still a bit of a conversation that goes into that. And, you know, the medium doesn't matter there. It doesn't, because it's where the conversation, if that is going to be where your mindset is going to be, okay, I'm going to grow and be better as a salesperson because I'm having the right conversations with people geared towards who they are, what's going to benefit them, how it's going to make them look better, and going to help their whole company succeed and be more attractive to their investors, go to the next seed level, whatever it may be, whatever their goals are, attach your goals to their goals. So align those with them, quarterback that with those conversations. These are really the big conversations that people are having. I mean, there's the cold email, there's the phone, like we were talking about, where people are just dial, or there's the strategic people who are saying, here's my list of people that I'm going to reach out to. There's the FaceTimers of the world. I will admit I have been there, done that, but it's been warm FaceTime, not necessarily just straight up cold. So you got to test and see, right? There's the rebellious version of things. And texting, I'm a huge fan. One, because you can see when someone has, some of the time you can see when they've read your message if they have their read receipts on. And two, if you are texting, I'm going to go ahead and throw in as well with that, the texting portion of it. If you send a voice memo, it's going to disappear after they listen to it, or they're going to keep it. So you're going to know if they hear it or not. So you know your next best step if they've already listened to it. You know that they're on their phone, and with everyone working from home, how else are you supposed to reach people? You're going to call their office line? No. What is the office line? There isn't one. It's a cell, 100%. Social media is the money pot. It really is. And that is where the relationships are developed and grown and nurtured. And that's where you find where your people live, like I was saying before. There's the different Slack communities. There's LinkedIn. Of course, you've got to kind of weed through some of the things in LinkedIn to find a tribe of people who are really going to root for you and help you and give you that guidance to get to the next step of where you need to go with emailing or how you're going to do your outreach if you are just getting started. Or if you're not, just because you always have to be learning about what the next best thing is for you to do. So these are buzzwords, right? Effective versus efficient. It kind of goes into the same category as like authentic, I think, is these two words, because they're very much so buzzwords. But when you're cold emailing, it has to be effective. So let's talk about kind of the diverse, these two against each other. So if it's effective, it's going to be successful in producing that desired or intended result, which this is kind of common sense. Common sense truly is a bit uncommon these days. So I think when we break things down to being super simple and easy to digest, then we can kind of breathe a little bit and not overthink, because I'm an overthinker. So I'm preaching to the choir and myself on this one too, with just simplifying. So, there's got to be the intended result right there. So then efficient, especially of a system or machine, achieving maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort or expense. That goes back into this whole, let's not waste our time with blasting a bunch of shit out. And I don't know if I can cuss, blasting a bunch of stuff out. And then you're going to just blow through a bunch of people. You're going to blow through your domain. You're going to lose a lot of leads that could potentially be money in your pocket and help grow the ROI within the company for yourself, your ARR. You don't know what you're doing when you're pushing so much out. You're burning things to the ground. So these are the three top things when I think of cold email. You have to know if it's going to be delivered. So delivery optimization, if it's not being delivered, what are you doing? It's going straight to their spam, or it's going in their junk folder. They're not going to see it. If your email is not being delivered, then there's no point to even do it. So you have to check that. Your message, or I'll go into that in a few minutes. And the data. the quality contact? Is that person who that person says that they are through, I'm sure it is who they say they are, but is it the person that you need to talk to? Is it the messaging that needs to go to that person? Is it going to be relevant to that person? They all have this massive impact on each other, but they all play really well together when they're done right and simplified. So these are different. This is a little bit more intense when it comes to these acronyms here. My advice is, if you're watching this, go to your tech person within your company and ask them about all of these different things. Ask them if you have all of these things checked off, because each one of these are going to ensure that you are going to be delivering the emails that you are working hard to put in people's inboxes. So just a little thing down here, just to go test, use this link down here, mailgenius.com /MX toolbox, and super simple. You're just going to plug in your email, go. It's going to give you the information to see what your deliverability rate actually is. So that is something that is super helpful, because you have to know if things are being delivered, you guys. You have to. So one of my dear friends, Jesse Owlett, who I am such a fan of, who I am a big time believer in Lead Magic, his company. It's helped me tremendously. I was talking to him about emails recently, and he is really good with pushing things out, but knowing how to do so with making sure they go into the right inbox. So I wrote this down, because I write things down. I'll forget if I don't, when we were talking. And so he said, Amelia, listen, like, after investigating, and you can read this too, after investigating over 200 plus email servers which was Pavilion, Pavilion was Revenue Collective, if some people have not caught up to that yet, about 95% of them had critical delivery issues. 95%. That is unbelievable. And you can just imagine the amount of domains that are being just completely burned through. I mean, there's nothing that is going to be helpful, because either one, you're sending it to the wrong person because you don't have the right tool that's going to give you that data that you need in order to actually reach that person who's going to push you through to the next step. I'm a huge fan of Winning by Design too. So Winning by Design, Jocko, if you guys don't know who Jocko is, he is awesome. And I wish that I could speak the same way he does, so fluently and effortlessly, and he has wisdom galore. But he talks a lot about the negative impact of just totally blowing up your market completely. And it is such a negative impact. And, you go down that rabbit hole that goes into the data quality that you have. What do you have? Is it working for you? If not, what else could you possibly do? Ask other people what they're using who are in the same industry, reaching out to the same, target people, their ICP, or just leaders within that you trust, and that they're going to help you figure out exactly where you can find these leads that are going to help you push things through. I'm a big believer, and this is going off topic a little bit. I worked at Seamless for a bit, and I am a big believer in having multiple tools. I do not believe that there's a one size fits all tool for everyone. I believe that if you have your main tool and you have a backup as well, you're going to drastically increase the chances of being able to reach that right person. And goes back to deliverability. If you can't deliver it to the right person, then you're wasting your time. Time is money. So with that being said, email's broken at 95% of these SaaS companies. How sickening is that? How scary is that these SaaS companies and these reps are pushing so much out that 95% of that is broken? And that's because there's one email domain that everyone within the company is using. So you don't know what all is being pushed out between marketing, sales, product, CS, you name it. And all of these different things. And there isn't the email warm-up going into the second portion of it. There isn't the email warm-up to ensure that these things are going to be delivered. Isn't happening. So everyone's just blasting what they want, when they want, how they want, whatever it is, and not looking at the subject lines, not looking at the things that are going to ensure that it's not going to the spam. And they're not using Lavender, right? They're not using the tools that are going to help them actually know, okay, I scored an A on this one. All these check boxes are checked correctly. I'm doing well. The rapid adoption of products that send emails across the enterprise with misconfigured settings. So settings, that's something that it goes back to the other slide. Go to your IT person, go talk to them. Be sure you're delivering your emails and that your email's not broken. Go check and see what's being sent and what's not being sent, what is going through and what's not. Whatever it is that you use for your engagement platform, go look and see whatever CSV that you've downloaded in there. Go see if that actually is showing you that people are opening your emails. Check in on that. Make sure that things are being delivered and have that follow-up the right way. There doesn't have to be, you don't have to have that call to action right in that first email. More so, one thing that you can say, if it makes sense to have a conversation based off of XYZ that's going to be relevant to them, because you've helped XYZ, who's similar to them, achieve XYZ. So having the right messaging and ensuring that the settings are correct, win-win right there. Let's put that 95 way down so this email isn't broken. But go to your IT person. Just ask, simply ask. And don't be afraid to go do so, because it's a logical question. So this is the RRR I was talking about. This is the research, the reward, and the request. So there has to be this curiosity gap within the subject line, but not this clickbait. You see some of these and you're like, what is this? I like to look at certain things and think, would I open this in my personal email? So I'm a big fan of Lululemon stuff. I'm just going to share this. So I saw an email come through the other day, and it said something along the lines of this subject line being the perfect fit for the moms that work from home. Hello, am I opening that? Absolutely, because I'm a mom, I work from home. This is so relevant to me. And it wasn't this, hey, Amelia, check this out. That's clickbait. I'm not going to click on that because I know that's clickbait. I don't want to do that. I want to know what it is that I'm going to be opening, because my time is my money once again. So I'm going to do this the right way. You've got to do it the right way. You've got to figure out what that subject line is going to be that's going to be valuable to whoever it is. Make it curious enough to where they say, let me open this and see what it is. So going into the body, this is where that research happens, the relevancy. It has to be personalized. I do believe that there's relevancy that needs to come above the personalization, because like Hans and I were talking about at the beginning, when Will had shared with me not to be the weirdo at the conference, and just going up to someone and literally telling them everything you know about them, even if you do. Don't do that. Think about it as, okay, I know that you recently left this company, heard great things about them, congrats on the new role, or hey, you guys are hiring. All of this can be done with specific tools. If you have Sales Nav, absolutely figure out how to use it. I am more than happy to walk some people through how to go about using Sales Nav, because there are so many things within there where you can filter things down to the company has had this amount of headcount growth within this department within this time span. And you can put that as a variable, and you can throw that into your emails. So it's going to auto-populate whatever that growth is within, say, sales, and you're trying to reach marketing, and you're saying, how are you guys keeping up with the inbound that you are getting with so many sales reps that you've brought on with the growth of XYZ? You know, there's the way of doing that to where it's like, whoa, they actually did their research. They know what's going on. But there's going to be a lot of companies that you can work with like that. So who are in that same boat where they've had that amount of growth in that amount of time in the ICP that you're looking for, that your TAM. So there's got to be the storytelling. There has to be. I mean, people are people at the end of the day. So you have to bring it back home with we did this and we did that, and this is what we're able to do for you too. And that's this sparking of interest too. Like, it might be a competitor of theirs too, right? So they're thinking this bandwagon thing of like, well, shit, if they're doing it, I got to do it. Or wait, am I behind? Am I missing something? Is this something everyone's doing? Or wow, these people have got it together. They know what they're doing simply because they've got these case studies to show me right here, instead of me having to go and ask them for these case studies, that they've been able to help XYZ achieve XYZ by doing XYZ. And request. So there's your call to action right there. It does not have to, and this is a big thing, it does not have to be a calendar invite. You do not have to put your Calendly link or your Chili Pepper. You don't have to put those in there. A lot of people get frightened by those, and that's not going to help your delivery rate either. So, and credit Winning by Design again, big fan. A lot of this came from Jocko. So this is something that I will not totally take credit for, because they are geniuses when it comes to how things should go like this. But very open-ended. I like to have messaging at the end of it that's very much so like a, hey, either way, great to say hello and cheering for you guys in your ongoing success. Reach out if I can be a resource. If this makes sense, chat further, XYZ, fill in the blank. But that's your softer call to action. It's not your just, boom, I'm going to hit you with this whole, massive calendar invite where I feel as though I'm inclined to do so. Or it scares people off. But there's the other sense too, where I remember, maybe a year and a half ago, I had been trying to get a hold of someone at Lessonly, and Kyle Lacey to be exact. And I had tried and tried and tried and tried. And so I had seen a post of his where he shared that he would rather people just share their calendar link to simplify things. I do not believe, and this is my opinion here, I do not believe that having the calendar request in your emails is an effective and an efficient way to go about getting things moving forward with potential customers, clients. I do, however, believe to simplify things, if you are doing social selling, it does make life easier for everyone all around to go ahead and say at the end, hey, either way, if it makes sense to chat or not, I'm going to go ahead and just drop my calendar link so it's easy for us to find time, because I know we're both busy. Your time's just as valuable as someone else's. So I think that there is the time and place to be able to throw that calendar request in, but not via email. So here's my example for you guys. So we're going with Gongacorn, okay? So how Gongacorn had their biggest quarter ever. how did they have it, right? Like, sure, great. This kind of Delulu thing that I got of the mom work, the best thing for the moms working at home. Yeah, I want to know. You want to know how Gongacorn had their best quarter ever. I mean, you can read this. I'll read it to you. But John, thanks for connecting on LinkedIn. Boom, relevant, because you acknowledge the fact that you guys did connect on LinkedIn. You're not a robot. You're not a bot. You're not just sitting this boom, 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 automate. You legit connected on LinkedIn and you know who that person is. Gurucorn, I forgot that I made these names up. I think I love them. Gurucorn has had a job posting from April 12th for a sales operations professional with Salesforce CPQ experience. That goes way into that relevant, straight to that person, because you know what it is that they do and how it goes back to what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So you're tying it into, they're still going to continue reading this. They're going to keep going because it's relevant. And they're thinking, yeah, we did have that. It was on April 12th. That's when we posted it. This is not hard information to find, people. This is simple to find if you just take a little bit of time to go find it. And then you can scale this and you can push more out, but less is more always when it comes to pushing things out. Better outreach, less touches, and you're not going to have a million phone calls that you're going to be making in between. Recently, we helped Mike Savage, Gurucorn, fill a critical role and ended up getting us in before the end of his biggest quarter ever. Reward, woohoo, storytelling right there. So they're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. That's, you guys, seriously, like, you did that. So they're piquing that interest right there, continuing to have that interest. John, let's put their name back in there too. Let's show we care. Let's call people by their names. John, would you be interested in discussing how we might help Gurucorn? That's your request. It's not your calendar link. And I'm such a fan of the PS at the end too, because it's so, I mean, that just makes it to where you are you're such a human, you're normal. So I throw in a lot of, hey, I know I saw that you, I see that you're from Atlanta. That's where I'm born and raised as well. Go Dogs, Georgia Bulldogs, for all the people who don't know. I went to Ole Miss, so if I see Ole Miss people, I'll say hotty toddy, whatever it is. But I'm going to bring it back to where we're both human. So it's a lighter touch at the very end. And when I have that sincerely, Amelia, or just, talk soon, Amelia, whatever it is, all that, I'm still going to have my email signature below it. But it's going to show that I'm taking the time to actually write this to them, with putting my name in there and not just having my email signature to where it's like, talk soon, .. It's where that's just generated and pushed out to so many people. All right, tip 3, you guys. Quality data. Okay, so here's the validation portion. Your emails, and I preach this the whole time really throughout all of this, but you've got to avoid all these catch-alls and bounces, because they're going to happen inevitably, but let's avoid them at all costs if we possibly can. And you can if you do things the right way. So there's with making sure that your email is going to be validated, it's going to be delivered, you've got to have the vendor quality, even though it's going to be changing over time. You need to continuously be knowing what's going on in the industry. Whatever tools you're using, figure out what's going on in the market. What are people using? Be curious, figure it out, because your work that you're doing day in and day out, that's money in your pocket. You're in sales for a reason. You're sending these emails for a reason. So make it count. Don't just do it for the sake of just doing it. What is the point of doing that? Please, someone just tell me, because I will never understand, because if you want to truly be a successful salesperson, you're going to go figure out what's going on in the market. You're going to figure out what is happening with industry trends. You're going to follow them, and you're going to follow the leaders who know what they're doing too within those industry trends, who are making those trends happen. The people who are creators, who are delivering these new tools or the new ways of doing things, because technology is ever changing and it's going to continuously go faster and faster and faster. Keep up with it. That is my big piece of unsolicited advice, but go keep up with it, because it'll be worthwhile and then some when you do so. If there's licensing that's necessary with multiple tools, there's also some tools where you can have this free version of things, and that's great. Take advantage of those free versions of things. Don't put your credit card. You don't have to put credit card information in, right, to get the free access to certain things. Go and trial things too. Even if it is someone that you're prospecting and reaching out to, that's a really great way to have that hands-on experience with saying, hey, Martha, I recently just hopped on my trial with XYZ, Martha's company, and noticed XYZ. We recently helped XYZ, and then you go down the same sort of path. And then PS, big fan of what you guys are doing, though. It's really cool. And then throw in something great. Throw in something that you guys have in common. Go look at their about section on LinkedIn. Leverage LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to be your friend if you let it be. 100%. Go to that about section. There's so much gold in there that people don't realize. Go find that gold. And operations and sales working together, constantly monitoring this, is such a huge factor. And it's so widely missed in so many companies, because there's the hyper growth, right? There's the let's throw as many bodies in as we possibly can, and let's just get them to go blast and go, 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 go. Growth is wonderful, but let's grow right. So let's look at these companies. Are you building on sand, or are you building on rock? So are you going to be solid, or are you going to be crumbling bit by bit? And you're going to have the churn, you're going to have the turnover, so on and so forth, because things aren't working together. So having the multiple tools, having the operation side of things, know what the sales side is doing, and ensuring that they know what they're doing with it, ensuring that they are avoiding these catch-alls and the bounces that are going to ruin these email domains for the whole organization, to where you're going to go through 5 or 6 within a year. That might be exaggerated, but it's still very, very, very possible. At least 3 a year would absolutely be accurate. And you don't want that. I mean, this is your future, your life. You're choosing sales for a reason. So figure out what it is, how you can make those two work and sync together. Avoid at all costs all of these catchfalls and bounces. All right, you guys, bonus tip, if you're still with me, I can't see y'all, and I am on my own little tab here, so I am not seeing any of the chat stuff, so I don't know if there's any conversation going on, but I will hop over in just a second. So bonus tip, this is kind of just a shout out to my buddy over at Lead Magic, Jesse, who has helped me a lot with learning about emails and how to deliver them the right way and doing it not so. And side note, you guys, I'm just going to throw this one out there. He is also my competition right now in Lead IQ's March Madness. So if you want to hop over and go vote for me, I don't know what I'm going to do for you, but I promise I'll do something. I will do something. Maybe you'll get a coffee on me. How's that? Yeah? Good. Okay. So, sorry, Jesse, love you. So, all right. Bonus tip, call people on your website. I have found so much success with using Lead Magic, because this isn't a pitch for Lead Magic, you guys. This really isn't. This is me legit telling you, when you can see who's jumping on your website, there's a that's a warm lead right there. I mean, literally, that's just your intent data right there of, oh, great, these people are already looking at what I'm doing. And then filter it down to, oh, they're actually looking for a job. They went to our career page. Okay, let's filter that out. Oh, they were on here for like 30 minutes looking at our services. Great. That's a really hot one to go hit up and figure out who it is, who's reaching, looking at your site and figuring out who you guys are. It's they have a free trial. Go hop on it. It's been a game changer for me. And Lavender too. There's a few other email tools that I really am just such a fan of, because they help you get to that next level and avoid all of the things that we just discussed that you don't want happening. Thank you, you guys. I'm so beyond grateful that I was just able to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, jump in here and be a part of this. And did I stop? How do I get out of here? Hold on, you guys.
Yeah, you're good.
Did I do it?
Yeah, you did it.
All right, I'm back. Okay.
Yes, you
Hey,
are back.
there.
And yeah, you said, hey, I'm not sure if we got any engagement going, but people loved it. So just looking at the chat right here, we can have a quick look. Well, I have to scroll way up. So there's Jesse, your friend, but your competitor, your friendly competitor.
Yeah, you
Who
guys can vote for me, please. I'm trying to beat this guy.
I'm going to vote for you. I want you to beat the guy.
Oh,
So
thank
he
you.
said, let's go. Great stuff. Fantastic point. Then you weren't sure if you could swear. And I said, loving this shit. And then Tucker, he
Hell
said,
yeah.
go. Tucker said, let's go, Amelia. Ash said, yeah, Amelia, he was here especially for you. Then Mauricio loved that. Vikesh from Tex are another company that we love here at Line.ai. He said personalization is key, and he was all the time rooting for you and just backing you up and saying that whatever you said was amazing. So he really enjoyed it. There was Eric Steves who said media as a living value bomb. And actually, I starred and favored that comment because I definitely second that one. Eric, who was on stage with us yesterday, he says, let's go media and a bunch of exclamation marks. Then I said I would work for Guricorn because that sounds like a fun company. And yes, so we had a bunch of people who loved it, including myself. There was some really interesting stuff in there, and almost definitely we're reaching out to Jesse about that 95% of companies who are just sending emails into oblivion and who just have, I mean, that's where you get all that, where you get such a high churn for your sales reps, because they're just sending emails and just seeing these super low open rates, response rates, and it's very discouraging. And then knowing that, okay, you know what, they're using one domain, let's say 90% of emails, they're just going straight to spam, and these poor reps are just sending and sending away, and well, nothing. So that was well, eye-opening, and also a bit worrisome, I suppose, to know. So I'll reach out to Jesse. And yes, some great points, the triple R. And I thought you mentioned Gong in there. I wasn't 100% sure. Or you were talking about how you received.
That was just one of my pretend companies. It was Gongacorn. So
which is funny because we received an email from them today, I think, which was really like as if they saw your framework before and they just copied it into whatever it is they're doing right now.
Really, I have to go see what it is.
Yeah,
that's
amazing. I'll share that with you on LinkedIn. I think you'll love it because it just,
that's cool.
I don't know, sounds like they've been taking a page out of your playbook. And yeah, I'll definitely check out Winning by Design. I'm a sucker for a good book. I love it, so I'll put that in my Kindle. And then whenever I have holidays or anything, then I'll give that a read.
Amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. And the Jocko, who our team's working with them a little bit right now, and just the knowledge they have on what they're able to build out and show you and create with what it is that you're doing, and just the negative impacts that companies are doing with just blast is really powerful stuff. And he has a really cool accent, so he's really fun to listen to. So he's got awesome videos. Jump on those for sure.
Everyone loves a good accent. All right, that is good to know. Then, if people want to learn more about what is you're doing, what Carabiner Group are doing, what you're doing in the RevOps, how you're disrupting the whole RevOps industry, I suppose. How
Yeah.
can they get in touch with you? How can they learn more about your work?
Yeah, reach out, shoot me a message. I love being able to help people. And if there's just a question you have, great, let's chat. This is kind of aggressive, but I have my calendar link in my about section. So go connect with me. If we're not connected, book 15 minutes and let's sync up and see if there's a way for me to at least be a soundboard for you to figure out if things are going the right way. If you're building on rock or you're building on sand, you want to ensure that as growth happens, that you're growing the right way and your emails are being delivered because you have the right tools.
Exactly. Very important. And go vote for you in LeadHawks competition.
Go vote for me, you guys, please. I got to beat Jesse. I love him, but I got to beat him.
Go vote for Amelia. All right, Amelia, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed your talk. I'll send you an email on LinkedIn, and yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you guys for all watching. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day and happy Easter this weekend too.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
And that was it. That was the first ever cold email summit, the first cold email summit of the year. And well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a great time. I know I had a great time. We had some phenomenal speakers over these 4 days. And I really hope that, whether you watched it live or you're watching it back later, if you've seen all these talks, then if you went through it with us from day 1 to day 4, from event 1 to event 4, that you really, really learned something. That you really got to level up your cold email, your cold outreach game. I know that I did, and I almost didn't have time to really listen deeply to these talks because I was managing the studio as well. So I'm going to take a couple of days and digest everything and rewatch everything and make notes. And I very much encourage everyone else to do the same. Jump on the offers that these people, that these companies and these people shared with you, because there were some phenomenal offers in there as well, including one from today from our sponsor Expandi, who you can find at expandi.io. And that was that. So if you're watching this and you want to receive all those offers that we went through this week and you haven't done that yet, just head over to summit.line.ai. That's where you can opt in, and to everyone who's on that list, we will send the offer to you. For now, that was it. If you enjoyed it, then share a replay with anyone who you feel might benefit from it. They're going to be on our YouTube channel. They're going to be on these LinkedIn events that we have. But I think watching it on YouTube is probably the easiest. So look on YouTube, line.ai, well, where you're watching right now on YouTube. Share that with the people who you care about, who you feel can benefit from this as well. And that will be greatly appreciated. So thanks, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thanks to all the sponsors that we had. Thanks to everyone who came on stage and who took time out of their very, very busy days, very, very busy schedules to come and share their knowledge with us for absolutely free, which is just, it blows my mind that we got to learn all of this for free from all these wonderful people. And I had a great time. I hope everyone else had a great time as well. We will 100% most definitely be back with an even better cold email summit. We haven't really decided yet if it's going to be this year, if it's going to be next year, because we want to make sure that it's an event that will blow you away, and that will be even better than the one that we organized this time around. So thanks again to everyone who watched. I will be tuning out for now. I don't even know if that is something that you can say, but it's been 4 long days for me, so I'm just going to go with it. So thanks again. If you have any questions about us, line.ai, head over to line.ai. We help you with sales personalization at scale. And we have some other really, really phenomenal products that are coming out, including our API. So definitely check that out. Get in touch with us if you have any questions. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just look for Hans Dekker. That is me. You can find me there. I love to connect with anyone who watched the summit. And then for now, thanks again. Have a great early Easter weekend, hopefully. And yeah, get in touch. Have a good one.